including stop doing that.
Let me
Those
tell
are
you.
wifely duties, and even some wives don't.
That's
do them.
literally what I was about to say. I was wondering, there's even some wives who refuse to do that.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play. The Adults in the Room is the only show on radio dedicated to educating Kenyans on how they can stay winning in life and in love. Text the word adult to 22840 to get the latest clips from Adults in the Room directly to your mobile phone. SMS adults to 22840. Were you born for the camera? Are you the presenter with the most? Well, get ready because we're on the lookout for the freshest TV presenters there are. So if you think you got the goods, jump right on because you could be the next face of KTN Home's Straight Up Show. We are looking for one male and female presenter, aged between 20 years and 25 years with a social media presence across any of the social media handles, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and or YouTube. A must for you to like the KTN Home social media pages, and you must be fluent in English, Swahili, or Sheng. To participate, post your TV presenter audition video on KTN Home social media handles, that is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and remember to use the hashtag #StraightUpTalentSearch. Could it be you? The stage awaits.
The weather with SpiceFM.
It's mostly cloudy in Nairobi at 15, highs of 27 and lows of 14 today, and we'll see those mostly cloudy conditions through most of today. Mostly cloudy conditions in Nakuru at 15, highs of 25. It's what it is in Nyeri at 15. It'll go to highs of 25 as well, with cloudy conditions and a chance of rain later on. In Eldoret, it's already raining at 14, highs of 23 and lows of 13 today. Partly sunny conditions in Mombasa at 25. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 24. And in Malindi this morning, it is sunny. Well, it will be as the skies clear up. 25 degrees currently, going to highs of 30. Kisumu is clear at 21, highs of 30 and lows of 20. And in Kakamega, clear conditions at 17, highs of 28 and lows of 16. Out in Kampala, it's mostly cloudy at 19, highs of 29 today. Dar es Salaam will be partly sunny. It's currently 23, going to highs of 31. Into Joburg, partly cloudy at 12, highs of 22. And in Lagos, mostly clear conditions for now at 25, highs of 31. Kinshasa is clear at 24. We'll see highs of 33 back down to lows of 24. Out east in Beijing, it's sunny at 18, highs of 20 and lows of 13. While in Paris, clear conditions at 8, temperatures dropping. We'll see highs of 19 and lows of 8 today. It's 16 degrees and cloudy in London, highs of 18 and lows of 10. New York on Thursday night is clear at 20, highs of 22 and lows of 17.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
After 6.
Ben Apudo, good morning to you, sir. He says, good morning, tuned in from Ugunja. I like those vocals from Eric, Akuje Huku Siaya. There are several Jaber Ahakikishe, 2 wallet imeja.
Nitakuja na CT.
Bas.
Sponsor.
Handler and handler.
I'll be CT's right hand man.
You must go with the jacket.
I'm above a jacket. Wallet, what is wallet?
Yeah, jacket.
Yeah,
Like
you're gonna jacket.
Langi Ziegler is listening in from Miami this morning, and Bishogoro Omokaya says, tune in from Gitari. Good morning from Eldoret. That's where Jerry Rawlings is this morning. He wants to know what the frequency is in the Gwasi area. Hey, I don't know where Gwasi is. Anyway, Phil Collins, Eric, be thinking about that as you look flabbergasted. Tuned in from Embakasi this morning. Kip Sang says, good morning there, lady and gentlemen, listening from Eldoret, keeping it spice for great conversation, absolutely. Odero Jr. says he's tuned in from the Great Wall. You're not letting this Great Wall go, are you? The Great Wall will be there. And he says he thinks Spice FM should now be rebranded to Spice FM International. Mollid says, good morning, Wangwana. Max Makanda says, good morning from Malakisi. Joshua Monguru Ishmael says, kutoka Kisi, Milimani Kinyozi. Okay, tuned in this morning. And Joseph Desire, or is it Desiree? Okay. Says, good morning. As well. Abdikadir Abdalla says, good morning, tuned in from Kamarok. Good to have all of you guys in this morning.
Everybody, welcome to Friday. CT,
Yes,
today's proverb.
I think it would be good if we cap the week with another proverb from Western Kenya.
Okay.
All right. This one, short to the point. This is what it reads in English. A person who fetched water is most troubled when it's wasted. A person who fetched water is most troubled when it is wasted. Now, let me try and wade through the difficulties of trying to actually read what it says in the language. Okay? Right. Here goes. Amatsi kahayanga umutsi. Amatsi kahayanga umutsi. The ha, I think, has a h sound to it.
Amatsi kahayanga omutsi.
Yes.
Those three words.
Actually,
Speak the whole thing.
Yes. This is what you call a compact language.
Right.
Yes.
Amatsi
Compact
kahayanga
Umutsi.
omutsi.
Yes.
The person who fetched the water
Is most troubled.
is
when
most
it's
troubled when it's wasted.
wasted.
Yeah, nachota maji mna mwaga tu hapa left, right. Evans Okalo, you can tell us how you pronounce that. You say you are tuned in from Kachmega. So let's take a look at the headlines, and as we do that, get your e-paper, standard e-paper, for only 20 shillings daily. You get to access the standard and premium content on standardmedia.co.ke. With that, you also get the free Sudoku daily, free crossword puzzles daily, and 10 days free access to Standard Media archives for 20 bob daily. That's standard e-paper. What's in the headlines? Yesterday, the man who is the de facto, or is it de jure, Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, held a meeting with the management and board of the Kenya Power Company. And after he emerged, he said, Kenya Power is now a state project. What did he call it?
Special.
Special state project.
Yeah, special state project. So basically what he was doing, and he also, in the meeting was also the newly appointed Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Energy, Major General Gordon Kihalangwa. So he said the implementation of that presidential task force on PPAs at Kenya Power has begun in earnest. Team of investigators are going to be camped at the Kenya Power headquarters to look at everything that's been happening, procurement, staff hires, looking at the PPAs themselves, looking at starting that conversation with the IPPs to cancel any pending PPAs with IPPs and saying, so let's renegotiate what we have with the IPPs. So all this took place yesterday after the minister met with the bosses. Now, interestingly, the newly appointed CS in the Ministry of Energy, Ambassador Dr. Monica Juma, was not in that meeting. Maybe she's not around, maybe she's away. But, well, yes, this is what happened. So, a planned forensic audit will be spearheaded by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. And there'll be other investigators as well who come in to look at what's been happening at Kenya Power. The Standard has a look at who the managers of Kenya Power have been since 2007 and to 2021. 2007 to 2013, Joseph Njoroge, who until last week was also, after 2013, Joseph Njoroge went to become the PS in the Ministry of Energy. Until last week, now he's a PS for transport. And then 2013 to 2017, Ben Chumo. 2017 to January 2017 to July 2018, Ken Tarus. July 2018 to October 2019, Jared Otieno. October 2019, August 2021, Bernard Ngoge. And now the acting is Rosemary Odwor. Revenues in terms of what they were getting. In 2011, Kenya Power was raking in 731 billion shillings in revenues. In 2020, it raked in 133 billion shillings in revenue. Some good growth, isn't it? Yeah, it's some good growth on the negative side of the graph. Earnings after tax, 4.2 billion shillings in 2011, 261 million shillings in 2020. No, 939 million shillings loss in 2020. In 2019, earnings after tax were 261 million shillings. This company has basically just been going down, 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 down.
So the state says, you know what? We've got to salvage this thing.
Yeah, we're coming in now. We're coming in now.
A good thing?
I don't trust this whole story.
Which one of it? Which part of it? Oh, the whole thing, you said.
The whole thing.
Why?
Where has the government been all along?
As things have been spiraling out of control.
Yes. Look, from 4.2 billion shillings earnings after tax in 2011. 2012, it went to 4.6. 2013, 3.5. 2014, 7. 2015, 7.4. Then it comes back to 7.2. It's just fluctuating left, right, and center. But if you look at the revenues, from 73 billion shillings to, in 2014, they went to 105 billion shillings. 2015, 106 billion shillings. 2016, 108 billion shillings. 2017, 120 billion shillings. 2018, 131, 133, 133. Right? So you can see revenues on the up and up, but profit on the down and down.
So these would have been indicators that there had to be some kind of intervention. Or
Yes, the government sits on the board of Kenya Power.
Questions asked as to what is happening.
Yes.
The interventions should have come much earlier, because it would seem as though right now little is salvageable. So questions should have been asked previously, as opposed to now when you just kind of swoop in and do the night.
As Dereva was telling us last week, the energy billing expert, be careful. This could be, just that political move, show that we're doing something and all this and the other. And then,
Boom.
Next year, new government comes in, conversations start happening again, and things change. Start getting back to that point where you're still paying. The bottom line is, should we be paying how much you're paying for power? It's too expensive.
It's expensive.
Yes.
It's expensive.
If the government sits on the board of Kenya Power and the revenues keep increasing, profits keep going down to the point where they're making no profits whatsoever.
They make 900 million shillings loss.
And you're telling me that all this time they had no clue whatsoever as to what was going on.
Yeah.
That they ignored it and were kind of hoping that it was going to get better.
No, I am thinking more in
There are
terms...
changes. Since 2017, the MDs have been staying just a year, gone, a year, gone, a year, gone. Board, an entire 7 members, or is it how many members of the board left one day?
After staying for how long?
Sitting there.
Since this is Kenya we are speaking of, and this is Kenya Power, not any other country power, and knowing the levels of greed that Kenyans have, especially when they get to positions of authority in government, owned government, participated in enterprises where there is money and lots of it, in my mind, everything that you see happening is actually besides the point. At the heart of this particular matter is the money that this organization generates. And at the heart of the movements, people come in, people go, people come in, again, is this same money. And it isn't, is the money being paid in correctly? No. In my mind, it is, how is this money shared out? Because the problem can't be you have a power, a company that has a monopoly. The Mwananchi, that's us. what we pay, does it amount to even 40%? Probably 30%. 70% is industry. 60% is industry. You are guaranteed. Those fellows are business people. They are going to pay you.
Yeah.
So when you tell us that because we increased, because we expanded this entire usage of this particular product, and because we had contracts to produce A, B, C, D. No. That story makes sense only up to a point. Remember, government intervention is coming in after Auditor General had said they want to actually look at this thing now in greater detail.
And find out what's
They want to find out, actually, this thing that they keep saying, is it really what it is?
Is it really it?
Now, Auditor General says that, and they've been raising issues. Government now comes in. Government knows.
They know.
And the problem is, the moment the government comes in, you can rest assured many things will not come out.
Yep. Let's take this break. It's 24 minutes to 7. How are the roads looking like?
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial star 550 star 1 hash to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
The opportunities are here. Project X, the biggest youth empowerment project in Africa for young creatives, is here. Are you a model, a fashion designer, or a performing artist? Then this is the opportunity you have been waiting for. Register now for the opportunity of a lifetime by following at Opportunities Are Here on Instagram and The Opportunities Are Here on Facebook for more information and the registration link. Online selections begin on the 12th of October and registration closes on the 22nd of October. The Opportunities Are Here is a project by the Ethical Fashion Initiative in partnership with the European Union.
All right, so
Project
that
X
roundabout going into the CBD from Kamkunji is packed already this morning. And we're seeing some traffic in and outbound coming from Westlands and also from the roundabout at Haile Selassie. It's picking up also on Uhuru Highway, and that's where we see a lot of the traffic this morning. On Jogger Road, coming out past Hamza towards the Makadara train station and then beyond is starting to build up as well. Other than that, Langata Road looks great. Also, Ngong Road is not causing too much of an issue right now. We're going to see, because of the fact that when you went to bed yesterday, Mombasa Road looked normal, and then today, the service lane has been dug up completely. That is going to cause some traffic, and it is already building up there this morning. We're seeing traffic at Survey also building up as well. So let's see what it looks like in a short while, but we are likely to see madness on Mombasa Road today because of the continued construction. Okay. Let's talk in a bit. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text on 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, 20 to 7.
Morning.
So, CS Dr. Magoha has said that we being them, will build... Professor Dr. Magoha says we'll build 20,000 classrooms to ease the transition. Plans are underway for the construction of more than 20,000 classrooms to ensure smooth transition from primary to junior secondary school under the competency-based curriculum. Okay? So you know what we're doing.
Just wait. Are you telling me CS Education has acquired a sense of humor.
It would appear
No,
so.
carry on, yes.
Let me tell you. So you know that we don't go from primary to secondary anymore, right? We're going from primary to what?
To junior secondary.
Now, this is going to mean that there's going to be some clog up in the system. So they said, you know what? We can see this and we can understand that the transition is going to be a bit sticky. So what are we going to do? We're going to build how many? 20,000 classrooms.
Of course.
He said yesterday that the classrooms will ease congestion due to the 100% transition policy that was introduced in 2018. Our aim, and I quote, is to improve school infrastructure, and plans are ongoing to construct not even 20,000, 20,044 classrooms before December.
Before?
Good.
Sorry.
December what?
This year.
That's good.
Before December.
No. Just leave it at December.
Before December and April. December this year.
Between December and April.
No. Yes, between December and April next year.
That's good.
He says, I appreciate what the CDF is doing also. He said there's a committee, of course, and the committee, which is chaired by by Busia Women's Rep Florence Muthui, had invited the CS to explain why the government is yet to resolve the infrastructure challenge in schools. So his answer to this summons
There's
was,
a plan.
There's a plan. And between December and April, these worries that you have would be sorted. All right?
There's a plan.
Subukia MP Samuel Gashobe said many schools are congested, raising doubts about the quality of education. In the last Form 1 placement exercise, schools received double capacity of the students they can hold. Many schools have had to improvise classrooms by using tents and often temporary structures to accommodate students. As the CBC Pioneer class, now at grade 5, remember that exam they took last year, prepared to join senior secondary school in 2023 when the school term then now regularized. There will be need for more classrooms. But he's saying 2023 is your problem. Next year, April, 20,044 classes would have been constructed around the country.
I think he means what
this
he's
congestion issue is not going to be a problem. And I'm giving you my word, he said.
He means what he's saying. Remember, he also meant what he was saying with regards to, remember the furniture, the desks?
Those ones for COVID.
Yes, remember, money was even allocated. Do you remember?
Yes.
You remember? So, again, when you build new classes or classrooms, you will need furniture as well, isn't it? So, can we assume that other furniture... Just asking.
So
that furniture.
20,000 new classrooms.
Yes.
Furniture is going to be the COVID furniture.
Well, I'm assuming that at least it'll help, because if you bring in new furniture with the same capacity, there'd be more furniture than there was room. But now, if you're creating more room, then it means that the furniture will have a place. I'm just asking.
Can I tell you?
It's a plan.
Yes.
It's a plan.
Yes, tell me.
I tell you?
Yeah.
Okay. He also said the government will continue supplying desks and chairs to secondary schools.
Of course they will.
The distribution of 622,357 desks, lockers and chairs are to be supplied to public primary and secondary schools under the economic stimulus program, which was a success. And we plan to continue, he said.
So those 627 are in the current classrooms.
Yes. That's what
Do
he
we
said.
have an oversupply of desks in schools?
No.
Okay.
He said that one that they did under the stimulus package.
Now they'll do
worked.
another.
So now they'll do another one because that one was a success, and they've seen this kind of the way in which you
this
can
thing
do
can
this
work.
thing can work, right? So that's what they're gonna go ahead and do. So don't worry about furniture in these classrooms.
Right.
It'll happen. Look, there's a plan here. He also said that funds channeled to each institution and the total number of schools that benefit depends on budgetary allocations. Now, if you do not receive enough, you can do what? You can go ahead and apply for grants. From where? The government.
Right.
Needs assessment and quality assessment recommendations by officials form a basis for such grants. You need it?
We got it. The last people to say you need it, we got it.
So this is, it's reported that this is what he said when he met.
It's a quote.
He went to meet the Parliamentary Committee on Education.
They had summoned him to ask him, look, man, we're going into school again. We have a pioneer class who's going to the new system in the new level, and we have 100% transition. We don't have space, man. What's going on?
There's a plan.
Let me put
Between
your
December
problems at
and
rest.
Nini, desks will be done. Why December?
Sounds nice, no?
December is usually a
Christmas-
good month to start things. Don't you think so?
It's a good month to give things away.
You'd assume that it's in the budget for this year, and therefore, because the financial year started in July.
You know, if you
I
assume you'll
would,
get
I would,
hurt.
I would urge you to stop assuming, Eric.
It's a dangerous exercise.
Oh, there's a
my
plan.
friend.
There's a plan.
Okay.
You've been told there's a plan.
Sawa.
And you've been told. And
The
not
plan
only
kicks
told,
in
you've-
December.
You've even been given the details of how this thing works.
Okay.
All right?
Every question you've asked today, see, an answer has been given.
Yeah.
You said classrooms, Dio. You said furniture, there.
Dio.
You said when? Santa Claus.
And you called the CS, he came.
Yeah.
So,
What again do you
again,
want?
and there's a committee.
Yes,
Eric,
okay.
clearly, when there's progress, you don't seem to see
It's
it.
okay. There's a plan. Let's just move on.
And remember, the previous one was a success.
There's a plan. There's a plan, City. I am adequately informed, sufficiently alerted. Next, City.
My goodness. Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission eyes 192 million shillings worth, of course, of assets from ex-KRA staff. Let me read it for you.
Right.
A former tax enforcement officer at the Kenya Revenue Authority has been accused of amassing properties worth 192 million from corrupt dealings during a 7-year period when he earned 11.6 million in net salary. Net salary earned over a 6-7-year period, 11 million. Assets, 192 million. There's a multiplication process taking place here.
Yeah. You
All right.
earn your salary, you put it into wealth creation.
That is true. And
Okay.
actually, it can be done.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Kamau Kinyua, who resigned from Kenya in March this year, allegedly acquired a total of 19 parcels of land and homes, most of them in Ruiru in Kiambu, one in Laikipia County and one in Nairobi. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission says it is in a petition certified as urgent that its sleuth seized more than 1 million from Mr. Shillings, cash, money, taslim, from Mr. Kinyua's home earlier this year. The seized money was in Kenya shillings, Chinese currency, and UAE dirhams. The court heard that the commission was investigating allegations of bribery suspected to have been committed while Mr. Kinyua was working for the KRA. The freeze is the latest move by anti-graft body and KRA to fight suspected corruption cartels and tax cheats denying the taxman revenues. Last year, 40 employees of KRA were arrested over claims of acting in cahoots with tax evaders to deny the government revenue. But the former employees are yet to be charged.
Wow. So they found 1 million bob in cash in the home.
Yeah, the equivalent, meaning remember there was
Yeah,
some
there's
Chinese
currency
yuan
in
and then
dirham.
Yes.
Okay. And now they're starting to criminalize keeping cash at home.
What I'm surprised at, no, let me make this. let me rephrase this statement and phrase it correctly. It is a good thing, and it is commendable that the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission are doing a sterling job. But for us to be losing 2 billion shillings every single day, okay? One must first of all come and tell us where exactly are we losing it? Because if you don't finger and you don't point to where you're losing it, how then can you retrieve it? How then can you stop?
Yeah.
How are you going to find
How can you
it?
stop the
How are you
leakage?
going to stop the bleed?
Because it is known. Where it is taking place is known. So, can we have the discussion about where? Because, and it can't be everywhere. There are specific places where this hemorrhaging takes place. Because I like the story of the 192 million. Yes, is one individual, because the 2 billion is cumulative. But there are places where we probably, even on a daily basis, this guy has accumulated this over 7 years. Now, daily basis.
There's cash that leaves the state coffers.
Yes.
2 billion worth.
Daily. Even on Sunday.
Imagine. Now, the Attorney General and the Director of Public Prosecutions are in a tussle over who should do what, when and why. AG Kihara Kariuki and DPP Nuruddin Haji are locked in a legal tussle over who has the mandate for extradition proceedings against graft suspects Samuel Geshoro and Chris Okemo. The AG says the DPP has no legal authority to trigger extradition proceedings because the process entails international relations that fall within the constitutional remit of the executive. He wants the Supreme Court to uphold a March 2018 Court of Appeal decision that invalidated the extradition process instituted by the DPP in 2011. It was held that the process was initiated by an unauthorized person. The DPP, meanwhile, wants the court to approve the proceedings he initiated in July 2011. The DPP contends that since the proceedings are criminal in nature, the AG has no role to play. Further, according to the DPP, Article 156 of the Constitution, the AG has no powers in relation to criminal proceedings that include extradition proceedings. So the request was sent by the UK on behalf of the AG of Jersey in 2011. We are in 2021. Yes. This is 10 years later. And the people who should be executing this are fighting over, no, this is my job. It's my job. The AG argues that the extradition proceedings are not criminal in nature. So whether this guy should be extradited to the Jersey, to the UK, no. It's who's doing it.
Right.
DPP started the proceedings. AG went and challenged it. It went to the Court of Appeal. Now it's gone to the Supreme Court.
And meanwhile, these two, in terms of the process, are just hanging in the balance.
Process, yeah.
That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Shouldn't it be quite easy to figure out your JD? Or are there lines crossing and blurred here?
Maybe now that's where the issue is. Okay. But why struggle over it? Just sit down and agree. Let's work together.
Yeah, you do this, I'll do this, and then we come with a concluded end.
Are we saying that they are incapable of working together?
It would appear so.
Do we have instances?
What's going on here?
Are there instances where they have actually worked together?
Of course.
Of course.
Precisely. So
it's a normal thing.
There's a reason why I'm asking the question. We are talking about money again. Yes, because this issue of extradition, whether people go to Jersey or don't go to Jersey or wear a jersey or stay, that's really not the issue here. Okay? Money is involved.
So there's a haggle back and forth because who get the lion's share or any share.
Forgive me, I could really be wrong here, but the moment money is involved in an issue in this country, suddenly there's confusion. Suddenly, there's this. Suddenly. Kenya Power is just a case in point. You're telling me something as straightforward, something that has taken this long, something that has been ongoing for this length of time. Suddenly.
Imagine.
No.
Nay, I tell you.
Yes.
Quickly.
Yes.
Public institutions have up to November next month to submit pay data or miss out, according to the SRC. An estimated 900,000 public servants should brace themselves for tougher economic times following a government decision to implement new austerity measures, which will see their allowances reduced. The Salaries and Remuneration Commission has initiated a process of setting new policy guidelines, which will harmonize and rationalize allowances for the entire public service. This will end disparities which have seen some workers take home multiple allowances, more than 60% of their salaries. Yesterday, SRC chairperson Lynn Mengich instructed heads of all public service institutions to submit data on allowances by November 30th so that she and the Commission can review and formulate the new structure. It is expected that by April, there's that month again, next year, a new regime of salary allowances will be in place. Mengich said the Commission will then review and issue advice on allowances to the individual public service institutions by the 29th of April, following which the compliance checks to enhance adherence to the public guidelines will be conducted in July of the same year. Harmonization of allowances is part of a raft of measures agreed with the International Monetary Fund in April this year as a condition to grant the government $2.3 billion. So it would appear that the hefty allowances and perks that have been enjoyed by members of the public service for the longest time are coming under the axe.
Okay.
And if you don't tell us the structure with which you've been using to pay, there's a possibility that we'll give you what? Zero.
Yep, it's going away.
Yeah.
It's all going. You're talking about roads, eh? CT believes that the Nairobi Expressway will not be complete until 2020. What again?
You really do need to be a little more positive. I didn't say it won't be completed. I said it will be completed in 2023.
It will be completed, just not next year.
Yes, please. You begin by saying I said it won't be. No, it will be completed.
It will be completed,
but in
2023.
Yes.
There's another section of road that is connecting that place called Kennel. Right? You know Kennel.
I know Kennel very well.
Where there used to be a petrol station where somebody's from or something like that.
No. Thika Superhighway.
Yes.
Get to Thika, leave Thika Superhighway. You're now heading towards Muranga. Okay? There's a place called Kennel.
It's a petrol station.
Yes,
there
is a petrol station that's called Kennel. That's been there for long.
Okay.
That's
it was bought by Rubies. Now I don't know whether Rubies are going to rename that petrol station.
But that place has been called Kennel.
It will still be called Kennel. So the place is called Kennel.
Got it.
From that point, because that's where the dual carriageway ends, there's a project that's been going on to extend that dual carriageway from there to the Nanyuki junction. Okay.
Are they going to take the same length of time they took on that road to Nyeri, where there was, remember that one which took forever?
Yes.
Huh?
You remember that one?
I was on that road very often in those days, and I remember it.
Expansion of a road from Sagana going all the way into Nyeri.
Yep.
It took I don't know how many years.
The discussion took longer than the
Even the
building.
contractor forgot about it.
Wow.
So now this one has been ongoing. It's the second most expensive road project after the Thika Superhighway, which cost us $418 million. This one is $273 million. Okay. Between Kennel all the way to Marua. Marua is that place where the junction now to leaving the Nyeri road to go towards Nanyuki is. They say it will be opened. It will be partially opened before the end of this year.
Partially no.
Open.
That's a smart statement. Partially open.
Good, because you can even open a meter.
So if it looks exactly at the end of the year as it's looking now, it will be partial.
Yeah, but you're using some sections of it the new road.
That's partial.
It's partial opening. The people who've used this road, that last time when I told you I had done that whole road trip to my friend.
I was going
You're
to
one
ask
of
you.
your people. You are people. Okay. So.
Actually, this year, this highway, it was just soon after the president had gone in there to inspect. It's one of those legacy projects of the president. As we told Mr. President, now this one will be complete. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. And then, which also reminded me about Ngong Road. Ngong Road, the contractor is not on site. I drove to Ngong yesterday. There's absolutely no work going on. There's, where you can find machinery parked on the side of the road.
I just want to ask a question.
Some of those guys in hard hats sweeting something.
Gone.
Can I ask a question?
Ask.
What are they supposed to be doing on Ngong Road again?
In fact, that is the question. The moment the contractor is actually given money and told go back to the road, I think that's the first thing he'll ask. Okay, thank you for the money. So what are we supposed to be doing here? Fix the potholes. Okay. So no, you're supposed to expand the road. But this is the one that goes to the hills.
Why didn't you
Those
guys
ones.
say this earlier?
Okay. Now you asked for new timelines. Timelines, eh? Today is Monday. Today is Monday. Timelines. Why don't I give you a call on I'll call you on Wednesday. Okay? And tell you. Wednesday, I'll give you new timelines. Fundi disappears. Fundi.
Meanwhile, can I tell you something?
Please.
Yeah. You see that road between JKIA and Mlolongo that they said is going to open on the 30th of September?
Yes. 8 days ago.
It is easier to see oxygen as you look at it like this. It's easier.
Faith, my sister. Faith.
The section I told you, the section between Westlands and ABC Place, it was also supposed to be opened on the 30th of September. It was not opened.
I was waiting.
My friend. That section,
just forget about it.
No, but some sections have been opened.
Leave that thing,
Keep it right here for more conversations. Are the youth prepared to make their voice heard in next year's general election? Are they prepared to register in numbers as voters this year? The Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs will be with us in the studio in the next hour. Keep it right here. Good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The government's move to name Kenya Power Company as its special project is encouraging and deserves not only support but close monitoring. Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i said the move was so that all efforts can be made to improve the company, which is experiencing many challenges including poor management and fraud. According to Matiang'i, the government is aiming to restore the status of Kenya Power as Kenyans have begun to lose faith in it, with some embracing alternative methods of accessing electricity.
We are going to do a forensic audit of some of our systems and procedures at KPLC. We are working jointly together on an interministerial level to reduce the system losses that we have suffered. Effective now, we have suspended any negotiation on any new PPAs. We want to ensure that we address all challenges in the sector that result in the costs and all this being passed on to the consumers.
Since the Kemsa scandal first heard, investigations continue with the hope that the guilty will be prosecuted and public funds reclaimed. However, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has refuted claims that it is delaying investigations on the Kemsa case. In a statement, Deputy DPP Emily Kamau said the Office of the DPP is cooperating with the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to exhaustively conclude the case. Kamau was responding to media reports which claimed the DPP is yet to return the case file to EACC a year after making a pledge to do so. She said the DPP had returned the file to the EACC after identifying an area that needed further investigation. Primary school principals have been instructed to immediately suspend the fees charged to students for school-sponsored examinations. Appearing before the Education Committee in the National Assembly, Education CS Professor George Magoha has called the charges illegal. According to Magoha, the government finances the exams every year, so teachers demanding for extra money should face legal action. However, Magoha has blamed the Teacher Service Commission for remaining silent when teachers are extorting money from parents. Now, in an effort to combat early marriages, especially during this holiday season, two parents from Lemeiwo village and Mbobut, Elgeyo Marakwet County were taken to court on charges of marrying off their 15-year-old daughter. The two, David Kisang and his wife, Riley Kimutai, have been accused of failing to prevent their daughter from getting married early. Riley Kimutai also faced a second charge of depriving her daughter the right to education and also failing to protect her against sexual harassment as a mother. However, they denied the charges against them and were released on a bond of 50,000 shillings or 15,000 shillings in cash. The case is being reassigned to another judge and will return to court on October 19th this year. Now, Nairobi residents and its environs have been advised to visit various health facilities for eye checkup. Nairobi Metropolitan Services, in collaboration with Standard Group PLC and other partners, will be holding a medical camp that will see eye specialists sent to the centers who will attend the patients free of charge. Major General Mohammed Bari is the NMS boss.
On the 7th of October, the areas for screening will be Westlands, Dagoretti North, Dagoretti South, Kibra, and the place for screening will be Udhiru Muthui Hospital from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. On the 8th of October, the area for screening will be Roysambu and Kasarani, and the place will be Kasarani Health Center from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Nairobi Women Representative Esther Pasare said anyone with eye problems would be examined before surgery.
Ministry of Health pia wametusaidia, watakuja na hizo commodities yao kufanya cataract operations almost 300 to 500. Tuna appeal pia kwa doctors wa Kenya, ophthalmologists ambao wanaweza pia kuja watusaidie ili hiyo namba ambao tumepata ambao ni kubwa sana, tuhakikishe kila mmoja wao atafanywa hiyo operation. Operations zenyewe zitafanywa Nakuru kwa Ruben na Udhiru Mudhua. Hizo facilities mbili ambao rais ali launch juzi. Level 3 hospitals iko na theater ili sasa watu wetu wapate hizo surgeries na hizo facilities.
The wife of slain Haitian President Jovenel Moise said after judicial hearing into his murder that she would not rest until his killers are brought to justice. Martin Moise went to meet with the judge on charges of the investigation of Moise's death in July and said she answered questions for several hours. In an impromptu statement from the courthouse, she urged anyone with information to come forward. More than 40 people have been arrested in connection with the murder, but it remains unclear who masterminded the operation and how they were able to gain access the president's residence. Moise was gunned down at home by a group consisting mostly of Colombian mercenaries. To sports, and the national football team Harambee Stars have lost in a crucial match in search of a ticket to next year's World Cup after conceding 5 goals in a match played last night in Morocco. Adama Traore scored Mali's first goal in the 7th minute before Ibrahim Akone scored 3 goals before halftime, while the 4th goal came from a penalty kick. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
All right, we're looking at it building up on Mombasa Road today, in and outbound already. But right around that whole area that comes from the Weybridge going towards the SGR is slowing down some today, and quite a lot of traffic already building up there. And we're also seeing that action happening on Langata Road as well. Coming off Jogo Road, we're seeing it building up at the Makadara train station out towards Kaloleni and then onto Landis Road. That Kamkunji area started off quite early with traffic today. And where Thika Road did not have traffic, it does now. Quite a lot of it, though, past Survey, and it's almost spilling over onto Outer Ring, but we're going to have to keep a watch on this and see. Could be just early morning when everybody's getting out. Hopefully it doesn't get much worse than that. Kiambu Road is also building up this morning. Coming out of Westlands, we're seeing some traffic getting into the city. Let's keep an eye on things, but for now, looks you can get out without too much of a scratch. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room,
7 minutes after 7.
the only way
Good morning
to start
to you
your day.
on this 8th day of October 2021. Happy Friday, the beginning of a long weekend. CT Muga is dressed for the weekend, and CT and I have been invited to go. Where are we going again? Ugunja this weekend. Yeah. Yeah, CT is well loaded. Mimi ni driver.
There was a key component, a requisite for that particular journey. Yes.
Wallet.
Jacket.
Which has pockets.
Kuna jacket, kuna pockets.
I told you before, this isn't a jacket, it's a document carrier.
Bas. They're called documents nowadays. Call them documents. City, today's proverb?
Amatsi kahayanga omutsi.
Amatsi kahayanga omutsi.
A person who fetched water is most troubled when it's wasted.
A person who fetched water is most troubled when it's wasted. Ivan Zokalo gave us a translation of that on the hashtag column Situation Room. That one, he says, Amatsi is water. Kahayanga is irritate. Omutsi is the one who fetched. Amatsi, kahayanga, omutsi.
So, water irritates the one who fetched. If you want to do direct translation.
You see, translation, meaning, what you're referring to is what we refer to linguistically as transliteration.
Yes.
Now, this one, translations have to carry the meaning. Then you understand. Yes. So, if you do not, the import of what he's saying is there's water, there's irritation, and there's the fetcher of water. So now, put them in correct context. Water couldn't have fetched the person. So, the person must have fetched the water. And the water also couldn't have been irritated. So
it's the person who was irritated.
So
water must have been spilt in order for the person to be irritated.
Or the person was irritated because he had to fetch water.
Yeah.
The process of fetching water can be very irritating.
So this week we have been doing one thing, and this is celebrating young women who are occupying senior positions in our public service and making some big moves, right? So today we have a new guest. So let's just go back. Monday, Dr. Kiza Shako, right? Police surgeon. Tuesday, Emma Kithinji, head of Revenue Administration College. Wednesday, Dr. Mercy Mwangangi. Apo, there, fighting COVID, the forefront. Yesterday, Rose Washuka, Chief of Staff in the Office of the Chief Justice. Today, hey.
Leo ni leo.
Leo ni leo.
Asemaye kesho
ni mongo.
Yes.
Hajui. Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Youth, okay, it's called ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs, is with us in the studio. Nadia Abdalla, very good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you in the show.
I'm happy to be here.
Welcome to the Situation Room. This building is not new to you. You participated in a televised show. It was called Madam President.
Yes.
Huh?
That's when I officially unveiled myself to the public.
Right.
Wow.
When I was naive and I didn't know anything. Yeah.
Oh, no. That is absolutely not true.
Okay.
When you're naive, it simply means that in a specific field of endeavor, your knowledge is limited.
Okay.
But it isn't that you know
You know
nothing.
something.
You
Okay.
do know something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So how was it that time? Just give us your background at that point. How this then gave you that exposure, public exposure,
Yeah.
and how you ended up where you are.
I mean, before Miss President, I was working with the community in Mombasa, born and raised in Mombasa. And my interest was women and young people, especially those who've been affected by sexual, gender-based violence, mental health. But also my main goal was to make sure that the coastal young ladies are seen and represented and they participate. So I did my small-scale work from there with the little money that I have. Those days I used to go to MPs and tell them, support this, support that. Then the Miss President flyer came out. And I thought it was the best way for me to really tell Kenyans what I'm doing, but also demystify the stereotype that is around the young women in the coast. And so I applied. I was called. And let me tell you, when I went for the first interview, I blacked out. I was asked what's the work of the president. I just said, Commander-in-Chief. I didn't know anything else, and I just stood straight. But then they gave me a question where it wasn't a bit technical. It was more of my mind. It was a case study, and, I got into my zone, and I started explaining and everything. And, next thing I was called up, and I came to Nairobi, was with 70 other women. But I was so intimidated because these women were like MCAs. They've been in the field, they've been in the ground. And then I was 28. So you can imagine, these other women are so experienced. When I got there, first of all, the first thing people said, I got chosen because of my looks and because I'm light-skinned, which I really hated. It's this perception and stereotype a lot of women have. True. And, I cried for a bit, but then I was called by the organizers and they sat me down and they said, you know what, you're here for a purpose, so work on it. And so, nilipiga moyo konde and I did what I did. I picked a topic, which was mental health, because I'm very, very passionate about that. And that was a topic that I ran through with it up until I got eliminated at top 18. Then now from there, I got a name. Went back home, everybody's calling me Miss President. Miss President said, you know what, let me continue doing work. I created my profile. I created an online website where I put my work. I started being an MC. My first gig, I got 2,500 shillings.
Tell you.
Yes, where I...
Sweet money, that kind of money, isn't it?
It was good. Yeah,
Tax-free.
Was it?
You
was
said
it,
it.
Was it a check?
No, it was cash. Tena hata si M-Pesa, cash.
Right.
And it was a group of women who wanted to show up their businesses and try to be seen outside. Then it went on, built a profile, hapo na hapo, kidogo kidogo. But what I maximized on so much was my visibility online. My visibility online, my devotion to the community. One thing led to another. I'm doing my own thing and my name gets called by the president on TV. And I was just like, I didn't even work towards this. But somehow God took me there.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait. So before the president made the appointment,
Yeah.
you hadn't interacted with any government official,
No.
no, at that level.
Never. I didn't even, any youth, Kenyan youth, let's be honest.
Yeah.
They never think of, okay, they either want to go there because of the wrong reasons or they're like, government's not going to
Too
help
far.
in any way. Yeah. So I never had any interaction. The only interaction I had was tourism department in Mombasa, because I was so big on blogging and trying to showcase Mombasa and everything. But other than that, no interaction at all.
This is very important because there are many people who would sit and think, all right, for her to get that appointment by the president, there must have been, some interactions, there must have been some hand-holding.
Yeah.
Maybe the president said, all right, so I want to appoint young people. Go and bring me the young people. Maybe you were interviewed somewhere, you sat down with some. So you saw it on TV.
Yeah, I saw it on TV. Woke up one morning. I remember I had fought with my
So
ex-boyfriend.
how did you know you're the one?
Okay, because he said, my friend called me up and he was like, Nadia, what's your name? Because a lot of people in Mombasa call me Nadia Nadi. That was my, alias name. But then he was like, wait, what's your name? And I told him Nadia Ahmed. He's like, no, your full name, as per your ID. And I said, Nadia Ahmed Abdalla. And he's like, you know what? The president just called you. So the first thing I did, I called my late mom. And I'm like, Mommy, I think I just got a job. And you know what she told me? Acha story zako. Wewe, you are too into your own world. You think everything revolves around you. So please stop it. And I was like, that's okay. Then someone from Standard called me. It's like, Madam, how do you feel now that, how do you feel now the president has appointed you? And I'm like, huh? Then later, the clip was sent to me and, I didn't care about the job. Let me tell you what I cared about. It was the fact that the president said my name. So I was Pale Town. I was just telling my friends, the president said my name. So everyone's like, for what? What reason? I said, I don't know, but I know.
The president has called out my name.
That's what you should know, yeah.
So you were given this appointment to be the Chief Administrative Secretary in the State Department for Youth Affairs.
Yes.
And at the point when the president was making this appointment, he actually was very clear. He said, I am creating this position of Chief Administrative Secretary and I'm appointing several young people.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I'm appointing them is so that they can come in, be understudies for cabinet secretaries and other senior persons in ministries, understand how the government works, and hopefully in future they can take the reins.
Yeah.
Personally, when I saw the president saying that, I thought, this is brilliant.
Okay.
Whoever sat you down and told you this is the way to go, brilliant. Now you then get the appointment.
Yeah.
You are required, of course, to come to Nairobi to now get to understand your job.
Yeah.
How are you taken through the job that you've been given? I mean, it's a new position. It's not like you've been told you're a cabinet secretary, so you come in and they see as a job, even in the constitution. It says, you don't know this job.
Yeah. Well, so after he announced, of course, the people at the presidency called me, told me the swearing in is in like 5 days. So I was like, okay. So at first I was praying to God. I'm like, please, let it be in Mombasa. Because I felt like it would be monumental for me. Being in Mombasa, I'm born there and everything. Then before the swearing in, I get a call from the cabinet secretary, Mr. Joe Musheru. He calls me and tells me, welcome to my ministry. I wanted to connect you to someone. They will help you transition as you come to Nairobi. So the transition was done and everything. And as soon as I landed, I met him. And he sat me down. And honestly, and I always say this, if it wasn't for my cabinet secretary, I'm talking about my experience, I wouldn't be where I am today in terms of the way I'm so confident now, in terms of he always makes sure that people don't say, uyu mrembo or uyu mtoto. He literally makes sure that people know that this is my assistant minister. So from the day I stepped into the office up until today, he's always has a gateway for me to ask him questions, to go through and everything. But of course, public service is very staunch at sometimes because there are people who've been there for ages. So when they see someone like me and I'm walking there, actually the looks and the perception was, this girl is not going to stay for long. She won't understand. So there are times when I would try and ask for help. Some people were hesitant, but other people were not. So the cabinet secretary created a team of people who took me through everything. And let me tell you, I used to read a lot as well because I used to get so nervous every time. I'm like, I need to know. I have this thing. I want to know everything. But of course, you can never know everything.
Yeah. Do you think that the space that you are in and the things that you were doing, the social work that you were doing, do you think that it prepared you, somewhere for this position? Do you think that the things that you were doing, I mean, if you look at it, you were already in administration. You were already looking at social issues. You were already looking at young people and moving forward in terms of their career and such. Do you think it prepared you for this?
Yeah, it did actually. And also my educational background. So I'm one of those fortunate who studied abroad. So I did my bachelor's in Malaysia in public relations and communication, and my master's in foreign policy and cultural diplomacy in Germany. So even when I was outside Kenya, I used to volunteer with UNICEF. I used to be the student leader in the uni. I used to just take myself to networking event. I was a very inquisitive kind of person because something at the back of my mind told me that I had to just draw a blueprint because I'm actually the firstborn in my family and the one who's earned a very master's degree and gotten this. So I usually just... It has prepared me. Both
You're the leader.
Abroad, both abroad and here. Yeah.
Okay. So now getting into a position where there was not a position like that before, right? And you're basically starting from scratch. What do you think? I mean, sure, there's the stuff that was on paper.
Yeah.
The CS has called you here, said, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to give you some help, come in. And then it's on paper. But what did you believe that you needed to deliver then for the country and then for the country's youth?
Yeah. I mean, I knew that one thing I had to do was to break this broken telephone in the government when it comes to the government and young people. Because to be honest, before I came in, a lot of young people didn't have faith. They still don't, but at least now it's a bit okay. But they didn't have faith. They never understood programs. They never understood the government's language. So when I joined, and I remember very well, a month into my job, I sat in the office and I cried. I like crying a lot. It kind of helps me release stress. I cried because I was feeling very frustrated. Here I am. Of course, there are things that have been there, but how do I integrate my old self to the new self so that Kenya and young people can understand?
Right.
And that's how I birthed Kenya Ni Mimi. I birthed it the day I started this job. I knew that I needed to create a solid campaign that would enable me to help put young people into different segments. Because to be honest, you can't solve everyone's problem.
Sure.
But you can try to see and identify what is the pertinent problem that is there. And so from then on up until today, that's what I hold very dearly. And
so what is Kenya Ni Mimi?
So Kenya Ni Mimi is a campaign that I started. I was fortunate enough for the president to launch it. So that's like a plus. But it's a campaign where I want young people to be represented, to participate, to be educated, and to be empowered. How do we do that? Kenya is dynamic. We have 5 campaigns in Kenya Ni Mimi. Education and information, technology and participation, health and well-being, and then values, which is the most important one and the one that we are going into right now. Because from my research and from my interactions with the young people on the ground, as young people, we don't have, our value system has really weakened. We really don't see the essence of being proud of being Kenyan, but we also don't see the essence of really taking charge of the little that you have. You see, a lot of times, and this is because of our historical ways in which we live in, we want to solve big issues. We don't want to look at what's immediate and what's there so that you can solve it as a young person before you go all the way. And so I have, for Kenya Ni Mimi, we have 50 ambassadors across the country from constituency levels. And then these ambassadors have 10 delegates from every ward level. And what I try to do every month, they give me a report on the challenges they face there, but on also the achievements that they have done. So for me, I'm also trying to train young people on leadership and train young people to be responsible. And this is something that a government official doesn't do, because to me, I look at it as a sustainable approach. I'm going to be 35 in the next 5 years. So from now all the way to 5 years later, what am I leaving behind? That somebody will say, you know what? This is what she did. She might not have solved all the problems, but she made sure that we really believe in solving the issues in our country by ourselves.
You mentioned that young people didn't resonate with the government and that young people, by and large, I'm speaking anecdotally here, also didn't quite embrace this idea of being Kenyan and feeling like this is really their country. But let me ask the question. What is it that young men and women could look at in the country? What is it that they experience? What is it that they can anticipate that would make them have this feeling that indeed this is their country?
Yeah.
Feeling that they would like to participate in ensuring growth and development. What is it?
Okay, I think it's having an approach and looking through the community level. I come from a place where historical injustices are written on our palms. I grew up not even feeling like I'm Kenyan. But every time I wake up in the morning, I look at how my grandmother, how my aunties, how we live in Mombasa or even in Old Town, and I remember that this is what they have done. It's not like as a whole country, but it's the immediate effect. So I'm trying to tell young people, don't look at a larger scale. Look at what you've done. I thrived in my community level work. Why? Because I looked at this part. I didn't care about whatever is happening in Nairobi, whatever is happening in Kisumu. I looked at how can I change or make sure that Mombasa and the people around me are better. And that's how I paved my way.
Right. There's a lot of pressure on the shoulders of the youth. Huge responsibility. We've been told this year, the future tomorrow. The economy of the country rests on the shoulders of the youth, the age between 18 and 55. We've been told so many things, and it's youth. The youth are going to carry the agenda.
Yeah.
The youth are being looked at for the next elections because they are the ones who are going to carry the vote.
Yeah.
So much responsibility on the shoulders of the youth right now, conscious or not.
Yeah.
That those who've gone before are placing that responsibility. Those who are behind are placing future responsibility on the shoulders of youth. Seems like a big job that these youth have so much to do. But at the same time, we still have the majority of this youth feeling so disenfranchised in this country because of the lack of access to so many things.
Yeah.
Access to credit to be able to do what they need to do. Access to funding to attend the proper schools that they would like to. Lack of access to opportunity. Lack of access to, getting their voices heard.
Right.
There seems that even when there's this high expectation, there's this great lack in so many different areas. How are we going to be able to find a middle ground to be able to get to this place where the youth are supposed to go?
So here's the thing, the songs are there, and sometimes I also get a bit agitated because I'm like, the songs are there, but you guys are not helping, or you're not giving. I mean, myself, I wasn't given a mortgage because I'm young and not married in this country, and I'm in this position. So you can imagine.
So,
yeah, actually, what they said was, we cannot give you a mortgage because 1, you're young. 2, we're not sure whether you're gonna come back into this job or if you'll have another job
There's
after
no job
2022.
security.
Wait.
And I'm
You are
single.
told this by
A bank.
a bank.
Yes,
A financial
in Kenya.
institution in this country.
In Kenya.
When you already CS.
Yes, juicy too. And so, because you had to, what I had to do, I had to pay like 10% in order. I was just being ambitious. But you have to be. And I paid 10%. The bank didn't even care whether or not I lost that money. They just said, unfortunately, we can't give you. Because and the first thing, we're not sure if you'll have a job in 2022. We're not sure.
You're in a risky position.
Yeah. And so,
as a CAS, you are in a risky position.
Well, CAS is, the government is coming to an end next year.
Yeah,
How do we know whether the next president is going to retain this position?
Bro, what is certain on this planet?
Even the job that you have.
Yes.
Nothing.
Even that bank person.
Yeah.
What guarantee do they have that that job of theirs is going to last the year?
Right. And so what I think, going back to your question, is, you see, I think youth need to be very smart. And I keep it real. You have to be smart. Wewe unaona, people are singing praises and telling you opportunities and you're the future and everything. But how are you using that same narrative to demand or ask for things and being accountable for what you have? A lot of times youths get played by politicians, which is true. And some part of it is because kuna njaa. So, I will go somewhere and I'm here with developing partners and I came with this and that. A politician will go with 1 million. Who will they listen to? So it has, I think, for the youth in this country, it has to start with them. We have to call a spade a spade. Yes, we have a lot of pressure. Even I do. Before I was a CAS, even I had a lot of pressure. But did I choose to still stay in that same lane, or did I work with what I have? And that's something that we were never taught growing up. Because growing up, you're told, go to school. Once you're done, go to a high school, university, get a job.
Right.
But now, how many people have jobs? Not many. And then because of COVID, the dynamics of how jobs are there are different. So I think it's about time. And I tell you, it's this. We have so much power in ourselves. We just need to be a bit selfish in terms of what exactly do I want and who do I want it from, and go through it not alone, but together. I talk about the women agenda a lot, and I say, why is the women agenda thriving? Table banking, sijui what, chamas. Why? Because women, we are structured.
Work together.
Women, we work together. Youths, we're not loyal. We are not loyal. We can sell each other out like this. And we always want to go to a certain position, not on the basis of, I want to make a difference, but on the basis of, I want to be like that person because I grew up seeing it like that.
Right. So there's a lot to be done. City, let's take a break. Yes.
Right.
It's 7:30. In the studio with us is the Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs, Nadia Abdalla. She is here. We are celebrating the young women in making big strides and big moves in public service. We're talking about the power of the youth, and that's why we've just started that conversation. Then, CT, you'll ask the question after the break. After we find out how the roads are looking like this Friday morning, and then also find out the weather forecast for the world. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
We give you the latest, the funniest, and the most entertaining updates and news from Kenya and the world while you kick back and relax. Join in on our comical duo Hassan Umar and Sugar Boy on Habariza News every Friday at 10 p.m. only on KTN Home.
Hai, mheshimiwa. Uko kwa supermarket na umevaa uniform?
Yeah, of course. Unajua pia sisi tuambiwa turudi shule tusome ndio tupate degree.
Oh, that's why umechagua Naivas mkubwa.
Of course my sister, because of quality shopping na discount.
Na, unarudi class gani?
Jana kwa wazee, tuko rada kurudi tena with the Naivas back to school. You might not be ready to go back, but we're ready for you. It's time again to enjoy the widest selection of school products at Kenyan-friendly prices. Plus, score points with your Naivas card. Go back to school.
In the quest of saving an ailing son, Sonia does the unthinkable. Will the guilt of her misdeeds haunt her, or will she come clean? Catch Mother's Guilt at 6 p.m. every Monday to Friday, only on KTN Home.
The weather with Spice FM.
Mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi. It's 18 degrees, highs of 27 and lows of 14 today. It's cloudy in Nakuru at 18. We'll see highs of 25. 25 will also be the high in a mostly cloudy Nyeri, currently at 17. Eldoret is mostly cloudy at 15, highs of 23 and lows of 13. And we're looking at light rain in parts of Mombasa this morning at 25, highs of 30 and lows of 24. Malindi this morning, also partly sunny, highs of 30 and lows of 25 today. Kisumu sunny at 22, highs of 30 and lows of 20, while in Kakamega it's sunny at 21. It goes to highs of 28 and lows of 16. Out in Kampala, partly sunny conditions at 20, lows of 19 today, going to highs of 29. And Dar es Salaam is mostly cloudy at 26, highs of 31 and lows of 23. Joburg, rain showers at 13, highs of 22. And it's mostly clear for a change in Lagos at 24 with highs of 31. Kinshasa is clear at 23. We'll see highs of 33 down to lows of 23.
Spice up your life.
All right, almost in traffic hour this morning, and we see it on our usual suspects on the road this morning. Uhuru Highway, through and through, in and outbound, is a thing today. Gong Road not looking too bad, but for some reason, the traffic oncoming from Bagavi Way actually is clogging up right around the roundabout of the City Mortuary. Jago Road still continues to build up, as does Langata Road. Not too bad at the junction, but we can see that build up happening in no time. All right, what are we looking at? North Airport Road, not looking too bad. As you get then towards Outer Ring, it's going to clog up some. And we see traffic on the Thika Superhighway continuing to build. Where it was not on Kiambu Road, it is now. Quite some. Coming out of Limuru Road as well. Everybody now meeting in the city. The bypass is looking pretty good this morning. Looking pretty good, folks. Use them. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
in the
Nairobi.
Situation room this morning is Eric Latiff, Ndu Okoh, CT Muga, and Nadia Abdalla, CAS in the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth. CT, you had a question.
Yes.
Yes.
Nadia Abdalla.
Yes.
Mombasa. Old Town. Specifically, Kuze. Now, the Swahili culture is one of the richest and the oldest cultures we have. Not in this country, but in this region. And the Swahili people are some of the kindest, most generous people you can actually ever come across. The one thing, though, that one didn't see a preponderance of is a focus on the education of the girl child. Update me.
Yeah. So
Tell me how that is and how it is what you're doing has helped.
Yeah. Honestly, the education of the girl child has come a long way in the coast. You'd see, I mean, I have classmates who've gotten married after high school and they're okay with it. And when they look at me, they're like, you're going to now intimidate so many men. Nadia, punguza, those kind of things. Because you're too, they say I'm too aggressive. I think I'm assertive. I know what I want and I'll say it as it is. But what I've seen in the almost 2 years now being in this position and what has changed, a lot of the Swahili girls are now participating in a lot of programs. I'm one of the people who comes from this place called Swahili Port Hub. I don't know if you know it. And that place, if you go today, a lot of the girls are actually taking charge of these administration positions. They want to now make speeches. They want to be MCs. They want to participate in different things. They even want to debate with the guys. And what we've also seen is the parents, they started from when I was in Miss President. Some parents called my late mom and they told my late mom I would go to hell because I'm on TV. And the whole of Kenya is watching me. And like, why are you dressed like that? But then now it's like, inshallah, uwe kama Nadia, Nadia, please mentor my daughter and everything. So it's changed. Child marriage has reduced among the girl child. But at the same time, because of how girls want to be great, and because of the system back in the coast, the way we've been pressured as girls, if you don't study, if you don't get good grades, utaolewa, the boy child is I won't say the weakest, but he's very weak in the coast. So most of them have resulted to drug abuse. Most of them feel like we are too much. So they feel
disempowered.
They feel disempowered. And the parents, especially the mothers, they're still like, toto wangu. I remember there was a proposal that came to my family. And
proposal for marriage.
For marriage, yes. And the mother had seen me at an event, one of my MC gigs I was doing. Told my aunt, I really like her. I want her for my son. So what my aunt did, said, okay, you want Nadia? Let me share with you her Instagram page. I kid you not. The mother was like, no. Nadia is too much for my son. My son won't be able to handle her. Yeah, so you can imagine. We're still battling. But I believe being a CAS today, it's given so much hope to the girls in the coast. So much.
You're an inspiration to many.
Yes.
Now, you talked about this campaign of yours, the one that you run in Kenya ni Mimi, and it has structures up to ward level.
Yes.
And then the ward people come together and they articulate their issues.
Yes.
Now, if you compare, what kind of issues are coming out of the coast? Are they
in
homogeneous?
The coast, yeah. In the coast, a lot of GBV and SGBV. There's also a lot of course, unemployment. But there's also this thing, a lot of young people in the coast want to be entrepreneurs, yet they don't want to acquire the skills. So everyone will be like, oh, today I'm going to go to the sea, nataka kuuza samaki. But there's so many ways to sell fish these days. You don't only go to Forodhani to sell fish. You can actually post it online and start selling. So the issue, they'll tell you, oh, Madam Cass, sijui hivi, sijui vile. The other thing, they don't want to take loans.
Why?
Because they said they feel like they won't be able to pay it back. So they'd rather come to an individual. Yeah.
It's fear of taking credit because you don't know. You don't want to be auctioned.
Yes. But also, there's also fear of me going to apply na nitakatazwa.
Yes.
Yeah, so those
Fear
are the
of rejection.
pertinent issues. But especially GBV and SGBV, for girls, it's still
a problem.
It's still a problem.
And how about from other parts of the country then?
From other parts of the country, they want access to more credit.
Okay.
More credit. Because there's a lot of young people these days going into agribusiness. So many. Others, because of 2022 coming, they've come forth and told me that they're having a hard time to either be accepted in a political party because of, the hierarchy or because of the money. So they're trying to seek ways in which they can still vie without using their own money. And the other thing is, of course, connectivity, which is something that, of course, not the whole country has it yet, but it's one of those things that we're looking at. But also, if you look at the central region, alcoholism and drugs, it's really finishing the young people. Yeah.
So many of the people, if you just look at the issue of finance, access to finance.
Yeah.
So access to finance to start a business, and also access to finance is hindering their participation in politics.
Yes.
If we now look at that in terms of political participation in next year's election, many people would like to come out to present themselves as candidates.
Yeah.
I'm sure many of them would like to start at MCA level, maybe at MP level.
Exactly.
So is there anything that the Ministry of Youth is doing to see how to support such people who would like to come out, participate actively in politics? Like you did, but also get support.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're doing, like National Youth Council, we are having elections anytime from January or February. Now, what strategy are we using there? We're trying to round up young people to join this council so that they can create some sort of image and brand for themselves. Thereafter, if they want to be an MCA or they want to be an MP, it's easy for them to go and lobby or lodge to someone else, like someone who has money. But at the same time, as a ministry, we're also trying to give civic education to the ones who want to participate in electoral positions. In what sense? In the sense that how can you be an independent candidate and leverage on your social capital? You see, one thing young people have not understood is finances are important, but your social capital is what is going to take you very far. So a lot of Kenyan youth don't know about this. They're focused so much on what's in my pocket, hawafikiri, who's in my contact list. And then as Kenya ni Mimi, there's media focus. They're training young women or women who want to be in political spaces, but also connecting them to like the EU, Canadian government and everything. So we are also partnering with them to see how we can now introduce them on that side.
When Ndu mentioned the burden that young people have and what they have to shoulder, what now follows from that particular perspective is a view that young people are to blame and they're responsible for the problems that they have. As somebody who's distinctly older, I beg to disagree. Because a lot of what young people know, they are taught. A lot of what young people do are things they see as represented by those who are older. Like this story of You'll Be Leaders of Tomorrow. That is an old wives' tale. When I was a young person, I heard that story. Okay? Until now, I'm clearly not young. I still hear the story. The reality of the story is those who keep saying it, say it until they themselves get old, and they keep telling every generation. Leadership is not something that is actually handed over to you. No. Rulership of the kingship variety, that is handed over. But leadership is something you fight for, as you have exemplified in the story that you've told us about yourself. So until and unless young people get to the point, and by the way, they can. What we keep seeing as this selfish attitude that they have, or what is represented as selfish, it is survival.
True.
And where do you think they get these examples from? It's from older people. You are now in government.
Yeah.
And you will see people who are much older than you doing things that you cannot talk about on radio, and you'll wonder, God Almighty, now with all these things happening, hey, how are we actually going to be able to get out of this mess? Now, young people see this because some of these people happen to be parents of these young people as well.
Yeah.
You have wealth which this young person has gone to school because the parent has taken them, and they can do the maths and say, I don't understand how my father has this wealth, because given what I know both my parents do, this doesn't add up. Sooner or later, they figure it out.
Yeah.
Now, what am I saying? I'm saying, because I want to ask this as a question, what does the ministry do in trying to get young people to understand the ethical importance of the way in which they conduct themselves? Because right now, this country is rudderless. It's not young people. Right now, things are just moving. It's like in any and every direction that it can at every given moment in time. So, how does this ministry, because it's a ministry that focuses on youth, what are you doing to steer the youth in a direction that will make them different from us who are older and who have clearly brought most of these problems upon the youth?
Yeah. We do three things. Yeah? We have something called Kikao, Gava Ikokwa Ground. We usually partner with different stakeholders within government and outside government, and we go to different constituencies or counties, and we sit down with these youths. And we try to teach them and talk to them. So, back then it was more of, we know, like the ones who are already in power, they know, and young people have to listen to them. Now, or these days, it's more of a dialogue. It's more of, can we listen to what they're saying and then try to find a way. So at the Ministry of Youth, that's what we try to do. We try to organize and involve these young people through Vikaos to do that. But the second thing is, I'll mention again Kenya Ni Mimi. Kenya Ni Mimi, as much as, yes, we founded it, and it's not something that has been in government for long, but we are also trying to give civic education to these young people to see themselves not as the problem, but as a solution. Because I believe in it, whatever happened in the past has happened. Mistakes have been made. But because of how Kenya, almost 80% of this country is below the age of 35, surely if we change our thinking and we start doing things, whether or not we're in situations where we are desperate, I feel like a bit of change and movement will be done. Because to be honest, Kenya can't change in one day. Youths cannot change their outlook in one day. And problems in this country will not go in one day. But I'm coming back to my point again. We need to have small-scale solutions, small-scale programs, and small-scale activities so that we can just tickle the minds.
Sure. Change is easier when you're younger. Much, much easier.
You think so?
I know so.
Oh, okay.
And I say it is easier because, one, you still have this urgent push to experience things. You want to understand more things. An older person doesn't have those needs and those urges. They think very differently.
True.
But also, you have a longer time.
Yeah.
Yes. So, when these things are inculcated at an earlier age, that's what we call foundational. It then forms the structure from which all these are things that we're talking about. Because if you don't have it, the change you're talking about it won't be change. It'll just be a continuum. And what you're seeing happening will simply be exacerbated and it will be on the rise. But nothing will actually change positively. Not really.
I'm looking at, there's the youth factor, but there's also the docket that you hold with innovation and ICT, which, if we want to be honest, those three are still heavily connected. Because with the young people then come the current, spate of innovation, whereby everything that you do now is at the touch of a button. And that even the agribusiness that we're talking about, which is a traditional practice, is now being invited on this innovative platform. Right? That has to happen. The proliferation of this around the country then is equally as important, because youth are not just based in Nairobi.
No.
or in Mombasa
No.
or Kisumu. They're all over the country.
yeah.
And if we're going to include them in all of this, then there has to be that skeletal support from government. Now, here you are, a young person who was doing her own thing and then now called into government. Right?
Yeah.
It is clear that government support is needed. It is also clear that government support in a lot of these issues is lacking.
True.
How then do you think that government can come in to really provide the support, whether it is in funding, whether it is in making sure that there is a zero rating on data, for example, for young people and their businesses, whether it's making sure that there's adequate training for people in agribusiness? I believe the last time we spoke to you talked about something like this.
Yeah.
What is it making sure that there is deliberate effort to make sure that in as much as, yes, we're calling on youth to do 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
and we're asking them to think outside the box and be innovative, that there is the required support that they need in all of these sectors and areas?
But the support is there. And the government machinery is also there. Take an example, like Youth Fund. We have a lot of these things. Youth Fund, they have programs that happen from time to time where if you're a musician, you can have the Talanta loan, but before you get that, you get trained. Like we have civic education that goes on. We have things like KOP. It's ending in December. The partnership between World Bank and Kenya. We're on the eighth cycle, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember very well, I've gone around these 17 counties where World Bank had picked, based on their own reasoning, why these 17 counties. And what we've seen is, I've seen them being trained by master craftsmen. You see, as much as, yes, technology is there and everything, and you said it, we should be cognizant of the fact that not every young person is into the internet. Not every young person is innovative. So this machinery was created so that young people can go through a 6 months training with stipends to be able to now accumulate their own what do you call it?
Describe it.
Yani experience.
Skill.
Their own skill. Their own skill in order to make better livelihoods for themselves. And when I started this conversation, I said there is a broken telephone. I kid you not, 2 years inside, the programs are there. Government has different things, different machineries that look into the youth matter. The problem is the disconnect between the government.
The youth are not aware.
Yes,
So
they're
there's
not
lack of
aware.
communication.
Yes,
Okay.
and hence why the 7 of us, we have been brought into this government to do that. Now, of course, like for me, I mean, youth, it's mainstreamed, because you can find a youth officer in agriculture, you can find a youth officer here. So we also have to get all of them, and I have to sit with them and then find out what is going on. But if it was one, I believe the communication would have been much easier because every other ministry has its own mandate. The only ministry that has the mandate of the young people is our ministry.
Yeah.
So it's the broken telephone, honestly.
So what are you doing to correct that? Because you sit in that ministry that's in charge of looking at youth affairs. There's the National Youth Council. There's all these other different organs and programs.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What would you say that, by the end of this administration next year in August, this is the one thing that will have happened? Youth will be more aware of what the government is doing.
I think I'm amplifying more partnerships. And I use the machinery that is there, like NYC, like Youth Fund, but at the same time, and I say this again, Kenya ni Mimi. I look at Kenya ni Mimi as something that it disperses information, and it also gives a chance to young people to question and ask.
To seek information.
To seek information, but also it gives young people a platform, because every time I go to a certain county and I sit with the delegates and ambassadors, they always tell me they've never seen a government official coming to the ground. I have places I go, I don't go with a car, I take a boda and I go because I am aware of the fact that that place, it's a hardship area, and me going with a car doesn't make any sense. I sit under trees and I talk to young people. I go to play. I participate. And I do that because I am in the capacity, because I'm young, and because my very, very focus is to do two things. Bridge the communication problem, but also encourage more young people to participate. You see, if you participate...
Are they willing to participate?
They are.
Okay.
They are. Honestly,
so
they
clearly,
are.
they are willing to participate, but there are reasons that hinder them from participating.
Yes.
Among them is just not feeling powerful enough, empowered enough.
Yeah.
So that challenge then comes back to your desk.
Yeah.
how do you make sure that the youth feel powerful enough, empowered enough to be active in seeking information, because they'll be seeking information knowing if I get the information, I can use the information.
Yeah.
Like you said, in terms of even accessing credit, they don't seek credit because they already feel I'm not going to get the credit.
Yeah.
So it stops them from doing it. What are you doing to change that?
I'm creating an environment where I can enable some of them. Of course, I can't take the 35 million and place them somewhere, but I create enabling environments. My office, that's the first thing. It's always open. I meet people. In fact, I moved, because I was at Teleposta, so I moved to Kencom because it's easier for public transport for them to get me there. Number two, the same campaign we have, it's run by young people. It's volunteers that are there. As much as it was launched by the president, volunteers run it. So we created a space for them to showcase their work, to write articles. When they want to partner with a certain organization, I write letters for them and I sign them. They go. If I can go to an event, I'm a chief guest there. So these are the things that I do. But in addition to that, on the academia side, because we're always looking at these young guys who are up there, the academia side of it, I also go to universities. We're trying to create our small ambassadors to see how they can now use this information and set it forward. And to be honest with you, I'm very happy with what I have done so far because I have reports that show that there is some certain element and improvement in what we are doing. But of course, and I always tell people this, and young people, as much as we are aware of our power, as much as we are smart, we can do this, we still need the older generation to hold our hand through, because they have experience that we don't have. Because we're very disruptive as young people. Because we,
hot-blooded.
Gen Z.
It's a way of describing it.
Yeah.
But think about it. If you look at what you call a traditional society, what it had that we don't seem to have is something that is fundamental for inter-societal development. It is everyone having significance. Yes. So it doesn't matter whether you're young, you're old, you have your place and it's significant. True. And it's recognized. And you also know you're significant. Yeah. Now, this perception of insignificance, irrespective of whether someone is in the university, whether they're in some tertiary education, whether they're doing Juakali, whether they didn't go to school, if they have this perception of insignificance in common. Yeah. You're talking about the apathy. Yeah. You're talking about why people don't do things. When people don't feel important enough, meaning they feel insignificant, then believe me,
they see no role.
But let me ask you guys something.
Ask.
Who's supposed to bring that significance to you?
It is actually those of us who are older. No. You're going to tell me it's the young people who have to do it for themselves.
The duty bearers have got to create those structures.
No, but I also feel like, you see, this is the conversation that sometimes I like it to turn around. Because I was growing up, and when I was in this community where, a woman is just seen to be just enough, nobody held my hand and told me, you have to, I'm creating an environment for you.
You had the confidence that your late mom would support what you're doing.
But it's also because of what I grew up seeing.
Yes.
That's the thing. I grew up because my late mom's family were very poor.
Nadia, you are talking about a personal significance that is embedded in your personality and your being. That's you.
It's in your DNA.
Yuko kwa damu, dadangu. Okay?
Sawa.
Na haiendi popote. Okay?
Nadia,
yes.
We thank you very much for coming to the show today.
No, thank you.
As we head towards next year's election,
yes.
we'll ask you to come in more often.
Please.
Let's speak to the largest voter population in the country, and you sit at the desk that has been given that responsibility to speak to them at the Ministry of Information and Youth. Yeah. So we'll invite you. Please come again.
Asante sana.
And it's also very good to hear your story, very good to see the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And go back and tell the other ladies, they are the 4 ladies that we met this week. We appreciate all of you.
Can I just say something?
Say
yes.
I just want to tell all young people to go and register with IEBC. Our target is to register 6 million young people, 4 million between the age of 18 to 20, and 2 million between the age of 22 to 24. These are the new voters from 2017 up until today. So if you're a young person, the campaign goes up for 30 days. Please go and register because honestly, we need to vote. I believe you cannot complain if you don't vote. If you vote, you have the right to complain, the right to do whatever it is. But just vote. Just register to vote.
Bas. And then in the next hour, we are talking about the power of the voter at the ballot. And we'll be joined by somebody who has a lot of experience in dealing with electoral matters, Ambassador Kokimuli. Thank you very much, Nadia.
Asante.
Have a good day.
You too.
Good morning. It's now 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. We recorded 218 new COVID-19 infections from a sample size of 5,350. In a statement, the Ministry of Health said the new infections, with a positivity rate of 3.4%, pushed the total of confirmed positive cases to 250,728. From the cases, 208 are Kenyans, while 10 are foreigners, 135 males, while 83 are females. Meanwhile, Finland will pause the use of Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine for men in 1991 and later due to reports of a rare cardiovascular side effect. Swedish and Danish health officials had announced they would pause the use of the Moderna vaccine for all young adults and children. Regulators in the United States, EU and the World Health Organizations have also said the benefit of shots based on the mRNA technology used by Moderna and Pfizer-BioNTech in preventing COVID-19 continue to outweigh the risks. The Red Cross has distributed 41 million shillings in aid to poor families and people with disabilities due to famine in more than a dozen counties in the country. West Pokot County Governor Professor John Lonyangapuo said many of the county's residents had lost their crops due to lack of rain for several months.
Kuna mahali mvua haikunyesha na kuna mahali mvua ilinyesha ikamea kufika hapa ikakauka. So wakati ilivyokauka, shida ikaanza kutasama nyinyi kwa macho. Tulipoona shida imekuja, tukatangaza mpaka president ya Republic of Kenya Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, Mzee akapeana amri ulimwengu, njaa imekuja Kenya, mtusaidie kama kawaida, mali inawezekana, serikali itafanya, serikali kuu, county government itafanya, na sasa tukakutana na marafiki wazuri wanaitwa Red Cross.
More than 200 families have benefited from the money in the first phase, with each of them getting 5,067 shillings directly on their phones. PS Anetum Sabeni has promised that the agency will work with both governments in addressing the situation.
Nchi yetu imekumbwa na janga la ukame, karibu kaunti 12 zinaumia sana, na pia tunajua kwamba hapa West Pokot kuna wengi sana wameathirika kuhusu na hili janga la njaa ambalo tunapata. Na tungependa kusema bwana governor kwamba sisi tutazidi kutafuta juu na chini iwezekanavyo, tuone ni vipi tunaweza kuendelea kusaidia.
Education scholars, ecosystem partners, government officials and policymakers from 6 different countries are part of the 2021 Education Roundtable held by Huawei as part of the Huawei Connect 2021. The roundtable is aimed at addressing the inequalities facing the sector and discussing technology solutions across Africa and the Asia-Pacific region. In attendance was Alfred Cheriot, Principal Secretary, State Department for Post-Training and Skills Development, among others from Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Bangladesh and China. Technology has improved the quality of life hugely, but because it is not accessible and used by all, those benefits majorly accrue to only those who can afford smart devices and internet, and thus worsened the existing inequalities across the globe. Now tensions continue to rise among members of the ODM Kwale branch over who should hold the post of chairman in the branch. Former Tuga MP Hassan now maintains that he is the newly elected chairman of the branch. His statement comes 2 days after the county women representative Zulekha Hassan vehemently opposed Wanyoha's nomination, which she said was carried out without due process by the party's electoral board. Wanyoha has strongly condemned Zulekha's remarks, saying she is too proud.
Madam Zulekha ni mmoja miongoni mwa delegates wangu, na pia nilimuita ili aje afanye uchaguzi pamoja na sisi. Shida yake ni kwamba ni mkubwa sana, kiasi cha kuwa yeye hakubali kuitwa na mtu yoyote kwa sababu yeye ni women rep. Lazima ijulikane kwamba mimi nimefuata sheria, na sheria hii tulikuja tukaambiwa na next chairman, kaelezwa vile jinsi ya kufuata.
Zulekha raised allegations that Wanyoha collaborated with a few people to continue holding the post.
Napinga vikali matangazo ya kutoka na Mheshimiwa Mwanyoha akitangazwa na alikuwa mfanyikazi wake Mzee Swalega Kuria kuwa wao wameamua kuwa Mheshimiwa Mwanyoha ndio chairman mpya wa ODM Kwale County, na hiyo ilikuwa ni kura gushi ambalo halijasimamiwa na bodi ya ODM ya kusimamia kura, National Election Board.
Tanzanian novelist Abdul Razak Gurna won the 2021 Nobel Prize in Literature for his uncompromising and compassionate penetration of the efforts of colonialism and the fate of the refugee. Based in Britain and writing in English, Gurna, now 72, joins Nigeria's Wole Soyinka as the only two non-white writers from the sub-Saharan Africa ever to win what is widely seen as the world's most prestigious literacy award. Gurna left Africa as a refugee in 1960s amid the persecution of citizens of Arab origin on the Indian Ocean archipelago of Zanzibar, which would unite with the mainland territory Tanganyika to form Tanzania. He was able to return only in 1984, seeing his father shortly before his death. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, in traffic hour this morning, and we do have some traffic already on Mombasa Road today. It's actually quite heavy between the Weybridge and the SGR this morning. We're also looking at it on the Thika Superhighway, all the way back as far as Survey. Still continues. Gong Road has picked up some, as it has in Westlands, quite significantly so. Jogo Road still continues to be a thing, as does Lunga Lunga. And we're looking at that whole industrial area aspect actually quite picking up quite some. Okay, so North Airport Road as well, going out into the city and then spilling over onto the Thika Superhighway. Traffic hour, yes, we are right there. And we'll see what it looks like in a short while. But it's Friday. In and outbound traffic is actually quite some this morning. Let's be careful, as well as letting us know where you might be stuck or where you find a good route to use, such as the bypasses, which are all performing very well this morning. On SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text of 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It is
the
7
only
minutes
way
after
to
8.
start your day.
This conversation gets into the third hour. Welcome and thank you very much for tuning in. We are online, SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and www.spicefm.co.ke. We are on SpiceFM around the country. In Nairobi, 94.4, Mombasa, 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, Nakuru is 96.0, 96.7 Eldoret, Nyeri, 90.9, Malindi, 97.7. For the next 50 or so minutes, we're also live on KTN Home. City Muga has the day's proverb.
A person who fetched the water is most trouble when it is wasted.
A person who fetched water is most troubled when it is wasted.
Yes.
Okay. In one of those Luya dialects.
Amatsi, Kahayanga, Omutsi.
All those things summarized into three.
Yes.
Amatsi, Kahayanga, Omutsi.
Omutsi. Finished.
Finished.
Person who went to fetch water. Going around in circles. That one.
That's it.
3 words. Done.
It's a lovely proverb. It's a lovely proverb. We'd like to know which dialect actually this is from, but whether it's common in all the...
No, those... the common terminology for that region, Luya land, is actually an anomaly. If you look at the distinct linguistic differences that exist, beginning, say, with the Teso at this particular end and going right up to the Samia, believe me, the languages are distinctly different.
Right.
You come to the middle, the Kakamega area, the Idahos, the Isuhas, you'll find. So those who subscribe to this particular language that I have clearly trampled on tremendously,
Butchered. Otherwise known as
yes,
butchered.
can probably tell us where it comes from.
Okay.
Yes.
Amatsi Kahayanga Omutsi.
Yes.
Our next guest needs no introduction. Her name is Ambassador Kokimuli. She is a governance, democracy, and elections expert, and she'll explain to us the expertise in all these areas. Ambassador, karibu sana, welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you very much, Eric, for having me.
We call that the hot seat, but for friends of ours like yours,
I better be careful then.
we just warm it up, right? You are warmly dressed, so when we warm it up for you, you'll be very comfortable. It's a cold day in Nairobi today, you know. Ambassador, you have done a lot of work on matters of elections and governance from the early 90s throughout into the next century, to the first decade, and now the second decade of this century. What have you been doing lately? Let's start with lately, and then we'll go back.
Thank you very much, Eric, and thank you for the question. I have been working at the Southeastern Kenya University at the main campus, which is at Kwavonza in Kitui County. We are actually we are located between 5,000 acres in Machakos and 5,000 acres in Kitui. So we are on the borderline of the two counties. But we are sitting on the side of Kitui.
You're on the Kitui side.
We are on the Kitui side. But the other side of the main campus is actually on the Machakos side.
Right. And you started this last year.
Yes, I started in 2011.
Okay.
That's where I was appointed as ambassador from. And then I went in towards end of 2012. And I came back last year and I reported back to the university. When you leave university, you take leave to serve your government. When you come back, you report almost the same day and you start work.
You continue.
So yes, but when I came back, there was COVID, so we were working off campus online.
Where did your ambassadorial journey take you?
To New York, at the Kenya mission to the United Nations. That's where I was working for quite some time, representing our interests and trying to put Kenya on the map.
This is about how many? 6 years or so?
6 years and a half, almost 6 years, almost 7 years. Let's say yes.
Okay. And this is during the time when we were talking about the Sustainable Development Goals.
Yes, that's right.
And Kenya was heading this particular one, and Ambassador Macharia Kamau was
was a co-facilitator. was a co-facilitator of the committee, the group, and then the co-chair. So actually, if I may say, we can take a lot of credit as a country that those sustainable development goals, the 17 of them and the very many targets, were actually negotiated under our watch. Right. And it gives us a lot of pride as a country that Kenya and Hungary were able to design this. And then subsequently, Kamau was also elected or appointed by the President of the General Assembly to carry forward the agenda after designing the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. At that time and this time, Kenya has really done a great service to the universe, and because the Sustainable Development Goals took over from the Millennium Development Goals, which were not really universal, and which were there was a lot of unfinished business. So that business was taken over by the SDGs, and we believe by 2030 we shall be able to have made a lot of traction in this area of development. And also by trying to end inequalities, inner city, in country to country, within countries and so on. Because inequalities is a big problem for all of us.
If I may ask, what would you say was a general framework from which you determined these goals as being A, the fundamental goals, and also sustainable?
Okay, that's a very nice question. As I warned you, I have to be careful how to pronounce Munga.
I want to give you full permission
to
step on it as you see fit. So long as there's a mu to it, we are good. And there's an A somewhere.
It ends with a GA.
We are good. Yes.
So, the framework of the United Nations is based on the issue of peace and security and development, sustainable development. And the issue of sustainable development is very critical because, as we say, it is not possible to have peace without development, and you can't have development without peace. And the issue of environment, which is the third arm of this conversation, is we used to say, and we say it up to today, that climate change is actually an emergency. So you cannot work within a framework of development of peace and security without environment. I'm trying to create the anchors around these sustainable development goals. So having said that, the framework exists in the UN Charter. In addition to that, we have the priorities of humans, the needs, the basic needs, the issues of poverty, the issues of hunger, the issues of underdevelopment, the issues of inequality. And I know this conversation is a very important conversation around eradicating disease. And we used to have this at independence. You remember the different frameworks of kumaliza umaskini na disease. And so it is the same in many, many countries. And even developed countries have serious inequalities and poverty within their own countries. So that is the framework. And to make it sustainable, because we looked, you have to, in order for you to determine the present and the future, you have to look at the past. And therefore, we looked at the MDGs. And so the Millennium Development Goals were made only for developing countries. And they were not inclusive in the sense that they were determined by a group of people somewhere. People say somewhere in the basement of the UN headquarters, and then they came up and said to Africans and Asians and developing countries, go implement those and you will be okay.
Right.
So what we did, we said that, and the Sustainable Development Goals came from the Rio conference in Rio de Janeiro. And from there, a report called I was going to say the Kenya we want. No. But it's not the Kenya we want, but something similar to that. It is from that document that had determined the specific framework of how we will, all the 193 countries, members of United Nations, will now, all of them, sit down and negotiate the development goals that will take over from the Millennium Development Goals. And we said we have to make them sustainable, because sustainability is critical, not just for environment, but also for development, for peace. If you have something and you cannot sustain it, it will finish. Right. So we are thinking if we must have development, it must be sustainable, and we have to make it the new norm. And we have to protect the environment and make it also sustainable and so on. And we have to have peace and make it sustainable. Right. So it is on that frame of mind that we are looking at. Let's look at how to end hunger. Kabisa. Sio ati some, but kabisa.
Eradicate.
So you are thinking on the broader future, the bigger picture.
Right.
And you set yourself a very ambitious agenda to make sure that you want to know where you are going. You try as much as you want and see what you can do up to 2030. Then at 2030, you will evaluate and say, we were able to achieve this amount of progress in development.
And these are the lessons
we were
we
able
learned.
to achieve this amount of progress in peace. We were able to achieve this amount of progress in mitigating climate change and creating an environment that is sustainable, reducing the degrees, our emissions to the air and the degrees in temperature.
Right.
Yes.
Ambassador,
let me, sorry, I just want us to get into because what we're doing is introducing you to our audience, the work that you've done, to the crux of the matter now, on issues of elections and democracy. You've worked in this field for a while. You are among the people who worked on the South Sudan referendum that then led to their independence. But before that, also in the country, you participated in lawmaking for our elections and reforming our electoral system. That's a lot of work that you've done there. Maybe you can just give us a bit of the work you've done on matters of elections and democracy and democratizing this country in particular.
Thank you very much. When you speak like that, you make me sound older than Muga. Yeah.
How dare you? What on earth is wrong with this man?
Paul, City.
No, thank you very
You're
much.
still the oldest in the room.
Yes. No, I'm distinctly.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Eric Latiff, for those very kind words. I see that I was very fortunate to be in a situation where there was necessity for my participation in the processes that you speak. I started the business of elections actually, I don't know, accidentally. The late Reverend Gadaka called me, I think it was 1990. I was actually just a fresh graduate, but I started just before I graduated in 89. And I remember Gadaka, he was working then at, I think, the ecumenical movement. And he was telling me we need to go to some place in Central and do civic education. So I asked him, what is that? Those days, I mean, who knew civic education? 31, 32 years ago.
No one did.
And so we are thinking, okay, civic education, that is so progressive. He sounded so clever. So he said that, first we start by educating people because, as you know, we are in transition. We are hoping that we will be able, this is 1990. We are hoping that by next year, before the next election, we are going to have multi-party. I said, really, you think? and he said, yes. So I said, okay, why not? So I went and we had a lot of battles with the police. We were chased from the place where we were going, so we moved from venue to venue. Eventually, we went to a church place, and we started telling people about what is in the Katiba, how they can participate in registering themselves as voters, how they can fundamentally change the political landscape of the country, how they can, become voters, how they can present themselves. And a lot of people actually thought we were out of our minds. I mean, how? Those were Kanu days. And you are telling people that you can make a difference in Kenya.
You can change the government.
And so that's how I started. So, I mean, fast forward to 1990 and Nelson Mandela is released. And so a lot of conversation around elections and freedom and so on. And there's a good feeling that things can become good in Africa. So this wave of liberty and potential and possibilities. So we start in earnest. We start this business of civic education. I actually begin to enjoy this business of teaching and moving from one location to another and evading police and so on. It was actually quite exciting. I was young and I was lovely and happy and, moving, ahead with this and trying to make a difference in Kenya and learning from other countries as well in Africa and abroad and thinking, what was happening in Yugoslavia and all those countries and thinking, wow, this is possible. So I joined after graduation. I actually went away to Canada on an exchange program, and I was working at the Ombudsman's office in British Columbia. And when I came back to Kenya, I was so re-energized, and I thought, wow, there are so many things we can do, and we don't have time. We were young and excitable and thinking we can change Kenya. So the first thing I did was actually, I had the audacity of placing a call to the Attorney General and Amos Wako then, and I told him, the Attorney General Emeritus, I told him, I think we can create the office of the Ombudsman in Kenya. And he says, oh, that's excellent. Why don't you seek an appointment with my secretary and come and tell me all about it? And I did. Anyway, the rest you can see, that is what planted the seed for the administrative of justice and so on. It's, exciting. Right. So anyway, after that, I joined Gitobi Manyara as an assistant editor in Nairobi Law Monthly. And it was very interesting because our business was covering politics. And that's how I was introduced to this business of elections, business of politics. And I was given an opportunity to interview the late Jaramogi Oginga during that city stadium event. That happened and in preparation to 1992 elections.
So, Ambassador, even from then, it could be said that whether it was in thought or deed, that you were a disruptor, that the idea that something different to yield a different result, right, had started even then. So even today, when we're talking about that, your vote in terms of something that you can do to bring about a different result, you already started to think about it, a while ago. Yes. That you don't have to go with the status quo. And if you're looking for a different kind of result in the way things are being done in the country, developmentally, government, leadership-wise, legislatively, that you can change that by the way you think and then how you act.
Exactly. And you can change it, not they. And so instead of complaining, you can actually do it yourself. And actually, you can make a difference. Everybody can make a difference. I know I've contributed a little. And if all of us contribute a little, we get somewhere. I try to call myself not a disruptor, if you like, but I like that. I'll use that in the future. That, But I like to say that I don't want to sleep during a revolution. And every day there is something that is changing. And you just have to lift your legs and feel the ground. And you will see. For example, I keep on telling people that there is so much progress that has been made in the political and electoral environment. Right now, we have so much enabling legal and institutional framework. We didn't have enabling laws in the 90s and before this Katiba, but progressively. In 92, we changed in 91, 92, we had 92 election, we reintroduced multipartism and then also limited the terms for the president to 2 terms and introduced broader participation in the Electoral Commission of Kenya and also participation of other political parties. This is something new. In 97, it was even better because the Electoral Commission membership was broadened to include those 10 from political parties in Parliament. And then in 2002, we had a mini revolution where we had, we had a peaceful transition from an existing ruling party for many years that is replaced by a new opposition party, which was a coalition. So we were on the right track. And then, of course, the level of information and awareness that came out of the Bomas constitutional process, the civic education, the participation of Kenyans and everyone else has actually enhanced the awareness of people so that you cannot say Kenyans are politically docile. But there was a time that you would walk into a church or a mosque or a place and talk about politics and people want to, stone you or tell you, sisi hatutaki hiyo maneno.
They don't want to engage.
No, absolutely.
There's more engagement now. Let's take a break at this point. 29 minutes after 8, having a conversation with Ambassador Kokimuli. She is an expert on governance, democracy and elections. She's been giving us, the work that she's done in the trenches. The revolution will not be televised. You have to be awake and participate in it and watch it yourself. And she's saying, well, each of us has the ability to make a change. That's a conversation that we're having today. What is your power as a voter as we're gearing to the next general election? This is Kenya's biggest conversation on SpiceFM, online and on KTN Home. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
From 2019, she has stayed with 6 different people. We are saving money. There's no need for him to be renting in this side.
And I'm renting this side.
No.
Yeah.
And sometimes this is an avenue for women to con men. Let me just be very honest with you people. Today we are talking about performing marriage duties while you're still dating. Why are you paying rent and this is not your wife?
Yo.
We need to start holding each other accountable. For those people who are dating, learn to buy your own bed.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play. The Adults in the Room is the only show on radio dedicated to educating Kenyans on how they can stay winning in life and in love. Text the word adult to 22840 to get the latest clips from Adults in the Room directly to your mobile phone. SMS adults to 22840.
The
Cloudy
weather
conditions
with
in Nairobi
Spice
at
FM.
21. It looks like it's going to be raining today in the city at some point. 27 will be the high and lows of 14. Mostly cloudy conditions in Nakuru at 17. We'll see lows of 15 today. 15 will also be the low in a cloudy Nyeri at 18. And Eldoret is cloudy at 17, highs of 23 and lows of 13. In Mombasa today, now light rain at 26, highs of 30 and lows of 24. And in Malindi, partly sunny conditions at 26, highs of 30 and lows of 25. Kisumu is sunny at 25, highs of 30 and lows of 20, while in Kakamega it's sunny at 24, highs of 28 and lows of 16. Out in Kampala it's partly sunny at 22, highs of 29 and lows of 19, while in Dar es Salaam it's raining at 27, highs of 31 and lows of 23. We're looking at rain showers in Johannesburg continuing at 13, highs of 22, and in Lagos it's raining now. Those clear skies disappeared, 24 degrees, highs of 31, and it's mostly cloudy at 23 in Kinshasa. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 33.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
All right, still continues, and everybody is leading into the city centre this morning. Aerodrome Road, all the way from the junction of Langata Road today, is jam-packed. And we're seeing Uhuru Highway from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout out through to Haile Selassie and into the city, past into Westlands today. Wow. That looks quite heavy. And we're also looking at the Thika Superhighway survey. It's thinning out a little bit. Also, Kiambu Road is not so bad, considering it's 8:30 on a Friday. Not too terrible this morning. Coming out of Westlands, also some traffic there. Use the Red Hill Link Road. It'll take you out of the Waiaki Way madness. The ICD route on Mombasa Road will take you away from that particular madness as well, joining the southern bypass and then heading towards Langata Road, which unfortunately doesn't look too good, especially at the roundabout. But before that, it's all free and clear. Use it, guys. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you can get in touch with us this morning. Let us know what it looks like in your neck of the woods. Be careful. Some precipitation on the roads today. Hopefully it will not be too bad. Text us 40127.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Spice FM. Nakuru. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Mornings
done right.
It's 27 minutes to
94
9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. The Situation Room on SpiceFM, KTN Home and online. In the room is CT Muga Ndu Okoh, Eric Latiff and Ambassador Kokimuli, Governance, Democracy and Elections expert. Ambassador, earlier this week when IEBC launched the mass voter registration exercise, we had a conversation in this room and we were asking ourselves, so they are targeting a huge population of people who just turned 18 between 2017 and this year. And in fact, Nadia just reminded us it's about 4 million people between the ages of 18 and 20. Another 2 million people or so between that the other age bracket. Now, these are people who have not registered to vote. These are people who have never participated in voting. And it's very good that you tell us your first engagement in politics was doing civic education. What's the difference between civic education and voter education? Is there such a difference? Which of them tells the voter how they tick the ballot, and which one tells the voter the power of the ballot?
Thank you very much, Eric. I should start by saying that indeed the number of unregistered voters is not just limited to that age bracket. It is also true that there are a lot of other older people who don't engage in elections and they don't vote. I was shocked to find some older people in my business when I was the executive director of the Institute for Education in Democracy, talking with adults in key government positions and they don't have a voter's card. And I was thinking, how can you possibly sit there and attempt to make decisions on behalf of Kenya and you don't vote? Anyway, there are a lot of that category of people, but we usually target that category that the CAS talked about. And it is something that can be done, because I remember in 2005, between 2005 and 2007, the Institute for Education in Democracy, where I was working, got together with True Black and Ridiculous, and we worked in collaboration with the Electoral Commission and managed to register altogether, that period, almost 6 million voters. So it is possible. And when you target people we had a very big campaign. You remember Vijana Tugutuke Nitamu Yako campaign? I was actually leading that campaign as executive director of the Institute for Education in Democracy. And essentially, one thing we must remember is that although voter registration is a continuous responsibility of IEBC, it's not always done in this massive way throughout. So they have, like now they have from 4th of October, I think, to 4th of November, this huge campaign reaching out to people to vote, targeting certain categories on demographics. But remember, to be registered as a voter, you have to be eligible. Eligibility requires, it's not just because you are 18. You must have an identity card.
Yeah.
And you know how complicated that is. And a lot of that target group do not have ID cards. And I know how hard it is, because I had to literally, struggle to get, to work with my children to get them ID cards. It's very difficult to get those documents. So
Is it still difficult to get an ID card?
It is difficult to get an ID card. It takes a long time. I mean, it's... it depends on where you are in Kenya. In some regions, you have to have your parents' documents and to be able to ascertain, because ID card, a national ID card, confers to a person citizenship. You are a citizen, so...
Ambassador, I'm conflicted when on things like this, because we're talking about one thing that requires another thing in order to happen.
Exactly.
And the supposition is that the state would enhance this, that more and more people having reached that age where they need this, that it would be a seamless operation.
You would think so.
Right.
Well, getting an ID card or getting a voter's card. Now you don't get voter's card, you just get a slip. It's not mandatory. There are things that you do for yourself. You go out and do it. Nobody forces you to get an ID card. They encourage you by saying that you can't have an M-Pesa thing without, you cannot do certain things.
You're indirectly forced.
Indirectly
you
forced.
will not transact.
But the point is, because it is voluntary, it means, and that's why, in some countries where registering as a voter and voting is mandatory, it actually makes a lot of sense, although that's a different conversation. But if the facilitation, that's why you have Huduma centers and you have all sorts of support and facilitation from government. But I think there is a lot that can be done. I remember when Kivuitu was the chairman of Electoral Commission of Kenya, there was an initiative between the institute where I was working, ECK, and a number of other government bodies to try to persuade the government, especially the registrar of births and deaths, the registrar of persons, the Electoral Commission, NSSF, and all those groups in government that require registers of Kenyans to work together, where we have one seamless register. When you are born, you are registered at birth. When you turn 18, something automatically, and in many countries that happens, automatically changes your status from youth from a child to adult, and then some information is sent to you on the address that you have given to your state to tell you that now please know your status has changed and we require ABCD for you to like biometrics. We require your biometrics to transition you to adulthood, where you get an ID card. And then from there, you don't require anything else to vote and to do anything. That one is sufficient to give you the authority to be able to vote because you are over 18, which means if you have that one serial number from birth to death, it means, and then when you die, you are struck off from the register. It means that you will never have dead people voting, as we have seen in the past.
Or receiving an SSF.
Exactly. And so that is a political minefield because there are different bodies and agencies in government that, had this conversation, and the conversation has been going on for decades. And I do not know why we don't have one document that enables you to access all the government services in Kenya, and why you don't have one number that identifies you as a citizen all throughout. And of course, they will say a lot of things, because a lot of things have been said, and I don't want to go to that conversation. But I can say that would make the process of seamless registration easier. And it will also save billions of money, because if that existed, this business of the awareness mass registration, the registration business should be in one central government department, and registration for everything. People should focus on their business, their core business, like IEBC should focus on the core business of conducting elections and referenda. They shouldn't be in the business of registering citizens to vote. That should be the business of those people either issuing cards or that body I'm talking about. And it would actually save government lots of money. And therefore, if we had that, then it would be, we would not have this conversation about nendeni muka register and so on. It would be, please come and vote. Because now, persuading people also to come out and vote and engaging people, it requires sort of recalibrating our mindset and sort of, I don't know, to use Goge's words, Goge Wathiongo's words, decolonizing our mind from the mindset of Kitambo.
Ambassador, there's something very strange here when it comes to this issue of registration, the issue of the issuance of IDs and even registration so that you can get an ID. I happen to have, not the latest generation of ID, but from the rather huge one to a smaller one, which looks like a debit card, okay? I remember getting that new ID, and the thing that I found particularly interesting, because I got it in Migori. I had all my details, but the chief who helped me get that ID told me there's something he also finds strange. Because in his office, there were very many boxes of IDs that had not been collected.
Exactly. And that is something that we have, when I was at IED, we tried to understand. I must say that we introduced this auditing of the voters register and auditing of registers. And one of the things that the Vijana Tugutuke campaign did was to reach out to the young people and tell them, where is your national identity card? And somebody would say, oh, yes, I registered, because at the time we wanted, like in schools, like some people go to register for ID cards when they need something, then they need a particular service. And then something happens and they don't need it anymore. So they forget, and that ID comes to the chiefs or to the DO's place or whichever other place, the collection centers. That's number one. But number two, there are people who register who apply, and they are given this provisional paper, and they use it for one or two things, and they think it is enough. And their IDs sit in the chief's camp. But then there are all those people who register, and they go forever to try every time they travel, and they are traveling from long distance, and that is what Huduma centers were trying to cure, this traveling and so on, and trying to bring all the services together. So they travel all back and forth, and they come from long distances, and so they give up, and so their cards are there. And others lose cards. Yeah. You have seen in windows in shops and other places, people's cards. I mean, IDs. An ID is such an important card,
Those boxes were not few.
They were not few.
No.
But those people, many
and
of those people...
And that was in the chief's office or a DO's office?
It was the chief's office.
It was a chief's office.
Yes.
So he's dealing with an entire location.
Yes.
But the chief, when he gets those cards, what does he do? He keeps quiet with
Does he
them.
go out to say, I have received cards?
What he does in his baraza, he says, I have cards. Please come to my office so that you can collect your card. He is not going to read a list of names. But one of the things he said was this. There are many people who don't want an ID card because it actually identifies them. They don't want to be identified.
They don't want to be known.
They want to be anonymous.
Hence civic education and voter education. And I've not told you the difference yet. I'm remembering your question. Don't worry.
Tell him the difference.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, civic education comes from the word civics, and from the word civic meaning that everyone, like a child of 10 years, a child of 12 years, and everyone from 0 to 100 or whatever the life expectancy is. That is civic education. And civic education can be about mental health. It can be about political participation. It can be about participation in constitution making. It can be about farming. It can be about all sorts of subjects. It's not limited to the electoral process and to elections. It can be on everything. So including also elections. But voter education targets that person called voter. That's why it's called voter. And to be a voter, you have to be eligible. You have to be a Kenyan citizen, you have to be 18 years, you have to have an ID card, you have to be unjudged bankrupt, you have to be sane, not of unsound mind, and all sorts of disqualifications, some of them really, and that's another conversation. But you have to qualify to be a voter. And therefore, it targets somebody who is 18 years and above, who is a potential voter, because it also targets those 6 million that we are talking about that have not registered, but they are called potential voters. And therefore, it will focus on the specific processes in the electoral cycle and activities in the electoral cycle, or the processes in the electoral process. For example, registration, it will target people for specific campaigns, such as not having violence and intimidation. You know, this voter education,
general conduct in
an election, political participation in a political party, and related issues that a voter needs to know, and including delimitation of boundaries and what kind of things we can do.
Does it include the subjective? The subjective in terms of duty, responsibility, patriotism, and things like that. Does this education include, you know, the sacredness of the vote, the responsibility that you have to the nation when it then comes to lending your vote and not giving it away as your birthright for a few shillings?
You would wish, don't you?
I'm being very aspirational.
You see, in this country, and I must take blame in the sense that I have been involved in both civic and voter education for decades in Kenya and outside Kenya. And one of the biggest problems is that because it is almost urgent to focus on the immediate things, like the campaign like this one is not going to tell you your responsibility as a citizen, what it means. We leave this kind of education to the education system, where when I was younger, we used to have civics in schools. I don't know if they do that now, but there are categories of the education system that is supposed to teach you about how to be a patriot, how to love your country. How to love your country is not just what you do and say. It is really must be ingrained in yourself that this is and if you love your country, it means you love it all, not just your tribal and ethnic cocoons, but you know, and it is important responsibilities of a citizen. What are those responsibilities of a citizen? What are the national values that we have in the Constitution? In Article 10, you tell people from childhood until you are grown up, so that then when you register as a voter, I'm going to vote for Eric Latiff because he not only resonates with what I believe in, we share values, but he's also advancing my interest and the agenda that I'm interested in, irrespective of where he comes from.
Talking of duties, the ambassador will not speak about this. I will speak about it. One of the things that the ambassador did that many Kenyans may not know, they take it for granted that we have a seat in the Security Council. But she played a very key role in our getting that seat. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I must say, it was a tiny contribution, like everybody was. I mean, it takes a lot of leadership and from the top to be able to get into the Security Council and to persuade other member states, because you persuade not just the 54 from Africa, but you also persuade the 193, including the 54 from Africa. But once you get that kind of endorsement from Africa, which we didn't have, remember we had a problem with Djibouti.
Yes, we did.
Anyway, thank you. Let me just not say, but I am very proud. In fact, we were elected like today, I think the 18th, and on the 19th of June, I got into the plane and left because I was so happy with that. And I say, among it, well, I can say in my tiny contribution towards that, it made me proud to be Kenyan. And although I must use this opportunity to say, although a lot of people think that I am not a Kenyan because I am married to a Frenchman, I have never taken French citizenship, and I cannot be American. I served my country as a patriot, and I consider myself a lot more Kenyan than very many unconscious Kenyans. I am conscious to the fact that I am not just a Kenyan, a patriot, but that the responsibility of me as a citizen is paramount. And everything I do in my life is actually takes that into consideration. So just to debunk the myth that I may be American, French, or whatever. Not that I wouldn't mind, but over these years, and actually next week, I'm celebrating 25 years of marriage. So I must say, I mean, in those 25 years of marriage, I never felt the need to apply to be anything else but Kenyan. I am proud to be a Kenyan. So, and that's why I have been doing this, this work of trying to get other people to wake up to being Kenyan, because I believe that does help us achieve what we are talking about. And when you tell a young person, go out and vote, my daughter was telling me, because I was telling her now, since you are back in the country, we have to take you and you have to get you have to register yourself as a voter. And she said, no, we're having a conversation about what will happen if we register. And what if we have people in the ballot paper we don't like? I told her two things. One, you may not like whoever is in the ballot paper, but we have to check the one that is closest to talks to you in terms of values, in terms of agenda, and so on. I told her one day, jokingly, and I must have mentioned this to Eric Latiff at another conversation, is that I wish we had a ballot paper that had all the names of people and a box written, none of the above. And then say that if more than 50% of voters vote none of the above, that election is repeated with different candidates. Yes, that's what I told my daughter. And I told her, until then, you have to take your vote. You have to go out and vote to the best person ever. And if
don't look for the next best.
Next best, you know what I'm saying?
Not there, go for the next best.
Go for the next, but vote, because when you go out and vote, it means, especially young people, and that's why I'm happy with the campaigns that are happening in social media, and I understand. Like, for example, I was telling someone, look at why everyone is going to Mount Kenya. They have over 5 million votes. And politicians who want to be elected, they want numbers.
Yeah.
So they will go where the votes are. Why don't we have Kenyans from all the regions of Kenya getting more than 5 million voters registered? Then Mount Kenya and others, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, they'll become irrelevant. Because you can go to your own village to get votes. You can go to everywhere in Kenya. So if we can end voter suppression, if we can end this problem of ID cards, and we get as many Kenyans registered everywhere in Kenya, then all of us become relevant. And every politician who wants a vote nationally must be elected by all of us. Because if you go to Western and you have 4.8 million registered voters, you have 5 million in Central, and you have 6 million in Coast and 3 million in Eastern, then it means that you will not just need to go to Mount Kenya. You will need to go to the Coast, you need to go to Western, you need to get all those votes. And we can say, with certainty that if I am going to seek for national position as a president, right now we can say that you will, it's the deputy president is likely to come from the place with the highest number of votes for obvious reasons. But in a situation like I'm saying, it will not matter. The deputy president will come from the best, because in fact, all those people will have a stake, and it will not be possible to just say Mount Kenya tupatie hii na hii. And the promises, the promises of development and the agenda is going to be focusing on the actual development agenda
Ambassador
of the
Koki
country.
Moli, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
You will come again. As we get towards 2022, come back. Let's talk about the voter. Let's educate people. Do the thing that you've been doing for the last 30 years on this platform. Let's educate voters on duties, responsibilities, and most importantly, the power at the ballot and even after the ballot. We've been live on KTN Home with Ambassador Kokimuli. The conversations continue on SpiceFM and online in the next hour. In the next hour, we have the High Commissioner of Uganda to Kenya, Dr. Hassan Waswa Kaliwango. Tomorrow is Uganda's Independence Day celebration, and the High Commissioner is here to talk about that. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Keep it right here for these and more. Good morning.
Up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. The government's move to name Kenya Power Company as its special project is encouraging and deserves not only support but close monitoring. Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i said the move was so that all efforts can be made to improve the company, which is experiencing many challenges, including poor management and fraud. According to Matiang'i, the government is aiming to restore the status of Kenya Power, as Kenyans have begun to lose faith in it, with some embracing alternative methods of accessing electricity.
We are going to do a forensic audit of some of our systems and procedures at KPLC. We are working jointly together on an interministerial level to reduce the system losses that we have suffered. Effective now, we have suspended any negotiation on any new PPAs. We want to ensure that we address all challenges in the sector that result in the costs and all this being passed on to the consumers.
The Ministry of Education plans to build 20,000 more classrooms in high schools in readiness for the CBC curriculum from primary to high schools. Addressing the Education Committee in the National Assembly, CS Professor George Magoha said the plan will be implemented between December and April next year. It should be noted that through CBC, the number of classes in primary school reduced by 2 classes, with students graduating from 6th grade joining the first phase of the secondary school, namely junior high school. By 2023, enough classes will be needed to accommodate high school enrollment. Now, Nairobi residents and its environs have been advised to visit various health facilities for eye checkup. Nairobi Metropolitan Services, in collaboration with Standard Group PLC and other partners, will be holding a medical camp that will see eye specialists sent to the centers who will attend to the patients free of charge. Nairobi Women Representative Esther Cyrus said anyone with eye problems will be examined before surgery.
Ministry of Health pia wametusaidia, watakuja na hizo commodities yao kufanya cataract operations almost 300 to 500. Tuna appeal pia kwa doctors wa Kenya, ophthalmologists ambao wanaweza pia kuja watusaidie, ili hiyo namba ambao tumepata ambao ni kubwa sana, tuhakikishe kila mmoja wao atafanywa hiyo operation. Operations zenyewe zitafanywa Nakuru kwa Ruben na Udhiru Muthui. Hizo facilities mbili ambao rais ali launch juzi. Level 3 hospitals ziko na theater, ili sasa watu wetu wapate hizo surgeries na hizo facilities.
About 200 children in Boni, Lamu County have been affected by an outbreak of schistosomiasis and diarrhea from drinking dirty water. The children from Mangai, Melemani, Basuba and Kiagwe location in Boni Forest have been forced to drink dirty water from rivers and muddy ponds after water sources dried up following the ongoing drought. County Health CEC Ann Gathoni said she was aware of the outbreak and said the situation is being addressed. She said the county government aims to supply clean water to residents. Now, police officers in Mugirango, North Nyamira County have been asked to use force to crack down on criminals who harass residents in the area. The order was issued by Nyamira North Deputy Commissioner Malak Namai, who has strongly warned criminals in the area. Speaking at a funeral in Kenyoro, Namai urged police officers to make sure the locals enjoy peace they deserve.
our inspector wa Ikonge inakuanga the heartbeat yetu. Ikigongo tunasikia hapa tumetetemeka. Sasa dhibiti pale hali. Wale vijana wanafanya nini? Mimi nataka uniambie kuna kijana tumedima akiwa anaiba duka. Tuko na fire, mama unatumia kufanya nini? Mimi nataka kusikia pale Ikonge kuna kijana amedima akiwa kwa action. Ukiwa unaiba you are allowed to be shot. Sinivo? You are the enemy of this country.
Now, the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee has released a sweeping report about how former President Donald Trump and a top lawyer in the Justice Department attempted to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Trump directly asked the Justice Department 9 times to undermine the election result, and his Chief of Staff Mark Meadows broke administration policy by pressuring a Justice Department lawyer to investigate claims of election fraud, according to the report, which is based on witness interviews of top former Justice Department officials. The Democratic-led committee also revealed that White House counsel Pat Cipollone threatened to quit in early January as Trump considered replacing then-acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen with Jeffrey Clark, a DOJ lawyer who supported election fraud conspiracies. After the 8-month investigation, the finding highlights the relentlessness of Trump and some of his top advisors as they fixated on using the Justice Department to prop up false conspiracies of election fraud. To sports, and a Saudi Arabian-backed £305 million takeover of Newcastle United has been completed. The Premier League has approved the takeover after receiving legally binding assurances that Saudi state would not control the club. Instead, the Public Investment Fund, which will provide 80% of funds for the deal, is seen as separate to the state. This is despite the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, being listed as chair of PIF. The sale went through after the deal passed the Premier League owners and directors test. The takeover brings to an end Mike Ashley's 14-year spell as Newcastle United owner. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, so in traffic hour, a few minutes after 9 o'clock, and it still continues on Mombasa Road this morning. We're also seeing quite some traffic in industrial area, and Langata Road has built up where it was not before, coming into the city, feeding off from that Ngong Road community area. It's quite full. Uhuru Highway still continues to be the one we have to watch this morning, guys. If you're not on it, thank goodness. If you are, a little bit of patience will work. On the Thika Superhighway this morning, not too bad. Thinning out a little bit, especially just past Survey and Kiambu Road, not as bad as it was earlier. It looks like we'll get out of traffic hour a little bit earlier than we have during the rest of the week, but we're going to keep an eye on things and try to keep it as tight as possible. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text as well on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
It is 7 minutes after 9. Kenya's biggest conversation continues into the fourth and final hour of this week. C.T. Muga has the day's proverb.
Right? A person who fetched water is most troubled when it is wasted.
A person who fetched water is most troubled when it is wasted. Haya, soma kwa Kiluya.
Okay, amatsi kahayanga umutsi.
Amatsi kahayanga.
No, kahayanga.
Kahayanga umutsi.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Our guy, Brian Amulioto, will tell us whether we got that right. Whether we got it right.
Our resident expert is here.
Our resident expert on these matters. Our next guest for this hour is Uganda's High Commissioner to Kenya and the Seychelles, His Excellency Dr. Hassan Waswagaliwango. He's in the Situation Room. Karibu sana, Balozi.
Asante.
It's good to have you in the show. This is called the Situation Room, and that is called the Hot Seat. But, you know, you are an ambassador of a friendly country, so we extend the courtesies of friendliness to you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Ambassador, Kenya and Uganda are one. That's what our leaders tell us, and our people tell us. We're one, but we are two distinct countries, and Uganda is celebrating its, how many years of independence?
59.
59 years of independence, and the independence ceremony will be tomorrow. Now, as you look at that, you, as the person who's been sent by your country to come and represent your country's interests in Kenya, there are very many things that, you know, we'll be looking at in terms of our relations and Uganda's place in the community of nations in East Africa, in Africa, and the world. But let's just start with, first of all, congratulating the people of Uganda and yourself on the occasion of celebrating your independence. In Kenya, we call it Madaraka. What do you call it in Uganda? What's the name of the day?
There isn't a single word like Madaraka for independence. Different tribes can describe it differently. But in the most popular language in Uganda, which is Luganda, it is Olunaku Lwamefuga, the day of independence. Olunaku is the day Lwamefuga independence.
Olunaku Lwamefuga. Okay, so that's basically the title of the holiday.
Yep.
And a lot of celebrations, of course, that are geared to take place, even despite COVID. Looking back at a country's independence is big. Now, your work as an ambassador in Kenya, how long have you been on this tour of duty in this country?
Relatively short, because I officially reported for duty on 15th February 2021. I'm struggling to make a year. But I'm already comfortable, and I feel like I've been here for many more years because I found brothers and sisters. So there was no struggle in fitting in. I have fitted in so easily, and I'm comfortable. And I found already a very good bilateral relation between Uganda and Kenya. So I found life easy for me to settle in, and I'm happy doing my work. Yeah.
So in the region, obviously, when we're looking at how different countries playing with own state sovereignty and also, you know, looking at cooperation, what roles do you feel that Uganda has played while still trying to develop its own nationalism, but then also being part of this very important community? What role has Uganda played over the years and the impact?
Okay. First of all, my brother said that the leaders tell them that we are the same. We are the same community. It is not the leaders that tell them. We are biologically and naturally the same, because the people of Kenya and the people of Uganda are one people. It is the colonial masters, and for their convenience, that it chose that we should be nations. Otherwise, we should be a nation. And when the colonial masters chose to create space for their administration, did not consider our ethnicity. That's why if you visit, for instance, the borders of Mount Elgon region, the tribes on the Kenya, what is called the Kenyan side, are the same tribes that are on the Ugandan side. The cultural leader of the Bagisu stretches up to Kenya. Okay? The Gisu communities in Kenya bear allegiance to the cultural leader of Bugisu. When you go to places like Maraba, you'll find the Itesots in Kenya are the same Itesots on the side of Uganda. And the Emorimori, who is the cultural leader of the Itesots, stretches up to Kenya. He rules more than President Museveni. While President Museveni stops at the border, the Emorimori comes up to Kenya.
Yeah.
You see this? When you go to Busia, for instance, at one time you had the Muga Awori here as a very prominent leader, and the Agra Awori, a biological brother, on the other side in Parliament. That means that we are actually the same. And it's not the leaders who should tell us that, but we should believe and behave as such. We are brothers and sisters. That notwithstanding, without the consultation of our forefathers, the colonial masters, sitting thousands of kilometers away from Africa, in Bahrain, chose to call us nations. And they colonized us as either colonies or protectorates, whatever they chose to. And because of that colonial subjugation, the Africans had to begin fighting for their independence. And many of the African nations got their independence almost at the same time. And Uganda, in 1962, witnessed a historical event of lowering the British colonial flag and hoisting the current Ugandan flag. And it is this that occasioned the celebrations that have been going on, called the Independence Day celebrations. Of course, we value that date because it is the day when we saw a change of political guards from the whites to the Africans. And we respect, therefore, the fact that we were made nations and we attained independence at different times. But because we know and remember the historical distortions of colonialism, that's why African leaders are becoming nationalistic all the time, right from our founders, the Mzee Kenyattas, the Nyerere, the Kaundas, the Patrice Lumumba, and others. The struggle to decolonize ourselves and become an African state continues. Many leaders, like the great leader of Libya, Gaddafi, had a dream of creating an African state so drastically. He died without achieving it. It is a struggle. But one day we shall have to achieve it, as long as we are focused.
You see that happening?
Yeah.
What would it take for that to happen? If you just look at the context, the East African community has been heading towards some sort of integration, political, monetary integration. It's taken forever.
It is not forever.
Well, it's taken a long time.
It is a process. It is a process. For integration to take place, the mindset of the people to be integrated has got to be fine-tuned towards that. Many Africans, unfortunately, because they were born and believe in the nations they have found, think that they are different nations. But with the time, when Africans appreciate that we are the same, we shall form a federation.
Are we heading towards that?
The East African community that you are talking about, first of all, it had turbulence. At one time, it was disbanded. Also because of ideological deficiency by leaders. People who did not appreciate the importance of integration. And so at one time it did not exist. But now we are sure we are on the right course. For integration, political integration to take place, there must be other factors that must take place. For instance, there must be economic integration. One day when people think about themselves as East Africans and therefore don't need work permit to move from Arusha to come and work in Nairobi, that will be the beginning of integration. The day people will carry their merchandise across Maraba border without the unnecessary bureaucracy that takes place there, that will be the beginning of integration. The people of Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Southern Sudan, the day they will be able to move and cross borders without being asked for visas, that will be the beginning of integration. And it's a process, and it's beginning. It is already beginning to shape.
So there's appetite for it. Are we looking at appetite from all the specific governments saying, is that the direction in which governments are today when we look at the East African community, Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, saying this is actually the direction we should go? Or is the concentration heavy on nationalism and internal development first?
What is happening is, first of all, as far as Uganda is concerned, the integration should have taken place yesterday. It is not something we look at as a future thing. But because we cannot force integration, it is a process. We are waiting for other countries to appreciate the importance of integration. And what we are sure will eventually happen is when the leaders appreciate that the safest thing for us is to become a bigger nation than what we are, the easier for it will it be for integration to take place. Because today when we talk about economies like China is becoming a world power economically because of its numbers. And as when with us we begin to think about a small population of Kenya, a small population of Uganda, another very tiny population of Sudan, Southern Sudan, Northern Sudan, and so on, we are very easy to manipulate. And when we begin thinking about our nations, then we begin protecting our poverty. I call it poverty because when you say our sugar must remain here, it should not cross this, you are protecting our poverty. At one time, President Museveni said, beginning to compare the economies of the African nations, saying, which is better? Is it Uganda or Kenya? Is it Kenya or Tanzania? Is it Tanzania or Rwanda? It is like two dwarfs beginning to wonder who is taller than the other. Because, yes, because
same height.
We are the same height, and we cannot become taller unless we support each other.
Yeah.
So,
your president, Ambassador, has actually been in the forefront, even in reviving the EAC.
Yes.
And in trying to spearhead this conversation towards integration.
Yes.
All the things that you've said have actually been put on the table at a political level, at East African Legislative Assembly, at when heads of states meet during their summits, when ministers meet, when ambassadors such as yourselves meet. Talk has happened. What is it, in your opinion, that hinders the movement of this towards becoming a reality? What is slowing it down?
I think it is self-interest.
Whose?
The leaders. When somebody thinks that he owns a certain territory, and if he allows it to go, he will have lost hegemony. It is self-interest. But if we appreciate, of course, when we say, let's have the East African territory as one, then the next question is, who is now going to be the president? Which is self-interest, isn't it? Who is going to own what? Self-interest.
But you know, Excellency, even as you say that, anyone who's ever visited a border town, you will find that government bureaucracy aside, the people who live on those borders conduct their business as though they are one entity.
Absolutely.
In fact, the border is something you talk about, but people go back and forth as though that border doesn't actually exist.
Actually, it doesn't exist.
Yes.
It is a mere administrative expression. But to the people, it doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't.
When I go to Uganda, by road, for instance, with a government vehicle they see, with a flag, I'll take more time clearing in the offices to cross the border while people are moving from this border to the other side and coming back 10 times when you are still in the queue. With them, the border doesn't exist. They are the same community.
Yes.
It is us in offices who believe that a border exists. But our communities don't believe. Actually, the creation of the border is a burden to the ordinary folk. They would live happier without it.
You know, we see a lot of, especially trade taking place. Uganda is Kenya's biggest export market. There's a lot of business that takes place between Kenya and Uganda. Kenyan traders just get up in the morning, board a bus, and in the evening they're in Uganda. Tomorrow morning they're back with the overnight bus. Doing business. Same with Ugandans. And if you just look at, like you're saying, the reality is the citizens just want to trade. But the governments then come in and they start now introducing some barriers. So we have said, okay, these are non-tariff barriers. How do we deal with them? We've come up with tariff. We've had an issue, just like you've said, of produce. Produce grown, it's doing very well in Uganda. And we need it to come to Kenya, but we can't bring it to Kenya. Why? Because, you know, why should milk from Uganda be coming to Kenya? Why should this be crossing over? How can we move away from this?
As far as Uganda is concerned, it has moved away from that a long time ago. Today, if you drove from here and you went into Uganda in a place called Mubende, for instance, Mubende is after Kampala. Or if you went to Kiriandongo is towards Sudan, you will find Kenyan trucks loading maize. Today, you'll find the Kenyan trucks loading maize. And they don't only buy maize in the major centers, but go deep in the villages, and some of them even buy maize before it is harvested. You get me?
They book it.
This is the amount of freedom that we want. So the Kenyan can go to Uganda without any restrictions, buy maize, bring it to Maraba, and it is brought to for production here, or for storage, or for whatever. This is already happening in Uganda. But as you have said, it is the governments that create the barriers and interfere with the normal operations of the ordinary businessman. So you'll find still personal interests. If I'm somebody in Uganda and I'm dealing in produce and I fear competition, I will peddle influence and make competition difficult. This is what happens. People's interests.
Can I ask a
For
question?
instance, I'll
Yes.
tell you that at one time there was a story that Uganda maize had been blocked at the border.
Yes.
Up to today, as we talk, we have never seen any official letter from the government of Uganda blocking the maize. But it was on social media, and the trucks were stopped there. This is
So it was a rumor.
personal interests. Somebody can sit down and concoct a story, and it appears as if it is official, when actually. So when the two governments met, they discovered that nothing has happened of that nature, and the maize has continued to cross up to now. So, personal interests will make the integration a problem.
You know, when you talk of integration, Your Excellency,
Yes.
First of all, we talk of infrastructure, road network,
Yes.
rail network, network by sea. So I want to ask, the Uganda rail network, fully operational? Port Bell and the sea avenues from which trade could actually be facilitated, are they also fully operational?
First of all, I want to congratulate the Republic of Kenya for the railway network that connects from Mombasa. It is quite developed and facilitating trade. The other side of the Uganda Railway is yet to be modernized to this level, but it exists. Merchandise can move from the border up to Kampala by rail. The Lake Victoria transport system is on, and the trade thrives between Kisumu, Mwanza, Jinja, Entebbe, and so on. Very well. The road network, Uganda's road network is very facilitative. It is very good. These days, a trailer can move from Mombasa to Kampala in 3-4 days. It used to take weeks because of the road network. It's very good. The air has greatly improved. Kenya Airways, I think, makes more than 12 routes to Uganda every week. And now Uganda Airlines is flying twice every day to Nairobi and to Mombasa now. So that is facilitating trade. And I think this is a good gesture. if there is more trade that goes on between Uganda and Kenya, it facilitates economic integration, which is a bedrock for political integration. Yeah.
Let's take a break at this point. It's 27 minutes to 10. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room on SpiceFM. With us in the studio is Uganda's High Commissioner to Kenya and the Seychelles, His Excellency Dr. Hassan Waswa-Galiwango. Tomorrow, Uganda is commemorating its Independence Day. And we're talking about the integration and what the influence that Uganda has had in the region, not just across the border to Kenya, to Tanzania, to Rwanda, but also further down in other countries as well. Very good morning to you. We'll be back shortly.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will.
When the legislators are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi la Wokovu is Jeshi la Wokovu?
I can't say it very well. Well, Jeshi la Wokovu.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
The sun is trying to peek through those clouds in Nairobi at 20, highs of 27 and lows of 14 today. Mostly cloudy conditions at 20, highs of 25. 26 will be the high in Nyeri today. It's mostly cloudy at 19, and Eldoret cloudy conditions as well at 19, highs of 23 and lows of 13. In Mombasa, light rain in some parts at 28, highs of 30 and lows of 24, while in Malindi is mostly sunny at 28, highs of 30 and lows of 25. Kisumu is sunny at 27, will go to highs of 30 today, and we'll see highs of 28 in Kakamega, where it's currently sunny at 24. All right, let's look out into Kampala, where it's sunny at 24, highs of 29 and lows of 19, and Dar es Salaam is cloudy this morning at 29, going to highs of 31 today and lows of 23. In Johannesburg, light rain continues at 15, highs of 22 and lows of 14, while in Lagos, it's sunny at 25, highs of 31. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kinshasa at 23 with highs of 33 today. Beijing is sunny at 20, highs of just that and lows of 13, while in Paris, mostly cloudy conditions at 8, highs of 19, and in London, it's cloudy at 15, highs of 18 and lows of 10, and we'll ring things out in New York this Friday. Early Friday morning, it's clear at 19. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 16.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
So between the Weighbridge and the SGR is where we see the greatest hiccup on Mombasa Road this morning, and that continues, but it should be all right in a short while. Industrial area, that whole circuit, Jogo Road to Lunga out to Likoni, and that's what is held up just a little bit this morning. Lusaka Road also then joining with the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, going out towards Uhuru Highway is also what looks a bit sticky now. All right, coming out of Westlands as well, not too bad this morning. The Red Hill Link Road provided some great reprieve for a lot of folks today, and the Thika Superhighway still continues, though it's drifting. As you get then towards the city, it's not too terrible. Traffic has been behaving very well this morning. Let's continue that way, shall we? Talk us through the day, should you need to. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text on 40127.
spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
22 minutes to 10. Kenya's
Mornings done right.
Situation room this morning. Eric Latiff, Ndu Okoh, CT Muga, and the High Commissioner of Uganda to Kenya and the Seychelles, Dr. Hassan Galiwango. We are having a conversation about the relations between Kenya and Uganda, but also Uganda's place in the East African community. You know, your president is the Mzee of the region, the Mzee wa Boma. And of course, Uganda has had, far-reaching relations with the countries around it. We're talking about, like, South Sudan. Uganda has participated in peace in South Sudan. Uganda's troops are in Somalia. Uganda has done a lot in terms of the region around it. Rwanda, in Burundi, Tanzania, the relations there. Now, if we look at all those things that, Uganda has been, doing around there, what would you say would be the impact of Uganda's influence in East African region?
Thank you. First of all, Uganda and President Museveni in particular knows and believes that insecurity anywhere can be insecurity everywhere. And one of our greatest exports is peace. The Ugandan sons and daughters in the Uganda People's Defense Forces have sacrificed their lives. They have sacrificed their families. They have sacrificed their privileges to live in their country and have gone to live in the bushes of southern Sudan, in Somalia, in the Central African Republic. Not because Ugandans are expansionists, because all the areas that we have pacified, we have not annexed any of the areas on Uganda. The map of Uganda has remained the same. But because we cherish peace for all humanity, and when there is peace in Sudan, when there is peace in Central Africa, when there is peace in Somalia, we know that in the region there is peace. If you have a bad neighbor, the influence will spill over to your compound. So the best, if you want to have peace in your compound, create a peace in your neighbor's compound.
But sometimes that could also be looked at interfering with your neighbor's affairs.
We don't interfere. Uganda doesn't interfere. And in any case, we are always invited. So there is no interference. If it was interference, then we would be subjugating the areas that we control. We create peace. We don't subjugate. Somalia has held the elections under our supervision. The Somalis exercise their democracy. So, sometimes it's the African Union which is appealing. We went to Somalia by invitation. Sometimes it's the United Nations. We are a global community, and we respect international global communities like the UN, the African Union, the East African Community. If it requests us to contribute troops to the East African peacekeeping force. We shall respect it because we respect the East African community.
Actually, I'm in agreement with you, and I'd just like to add that in addition to what you say, is the Pan-African movement that was begun by a Jamaican called Marcus Garvey is actually nestled in Kampala. And the patron, as we currently speak, is actually His Excellency Yoweri Museveni.
Yeah.
And the current chairman is Mr. Kahinda Otafiire.
Otafiire, yes.
Yes. So with the Pan-African movement that many people perhaps don't understand or don't think about, but this is the movement that Marcus Garvey thought would bring all black people together.
Absolutely.
Yes. And one of the biggest supporters of it had been the late Gaddafi. So my question, even as I look at this, is knowing that the government of Uganda actually supports, physically, financially supports the movement, what has been the response of your neighbors, us, for instance, Tanzania and the others?
And Rwanda.
And beyond, because if there is support for it, then the oneness that we speak about becomes an even greater reality.
That's right.
Yes.
As I told you, one of the biggest problems that one faces is self-interest. You can't avoid it. Self-interest. And sometimes maybe I want to call it envy. Why is it that it is Museveni who is successful in the Sudan, in the Somalia? Why? Envy. But it also depends on ideological upbringing. As my brother said, President Museveni and the cadre of leaders of his generation believe in Pan-Africanism, not nationalism. Actually, on the 4 principles of the NRM today, the word nationalism has been removed, and instead it is Pan-Africanism. We are looking at Uganda beyond the boundaries. Not to expand. We are not expansionists. If expanding was our responsibility, Rwanda would be part of Uganda. Juba would be part of Uganda if it was our mission. Because it's our forces that created the current day Rwanda. It is our forces that have created Juba. It is our forces that are now managing Somalia. But we have not called them part of the territory of Uganda because we are looking at a bigger African picture, Pan-Africanism. That is our mission.
I've got a question that's coming in on social media. Raphael is asking, there's the issue of fishing on Lake Victoria, the issue around Migingo Island, and the presence of contraband goods coming in from Uganda. What's the ambassador's take on these two problems?
One thing that I want to assure my brother who is asking that question is that there is no question between Uganda and Kenya that cannot be solved. And it is a matter of time. Uganda and Kenya will solve all the issues on Lake Victoria.
Are there talks that are taking place on this?
Mm-hmm.
Are there talks that are already going on to resolve these issues?
Many. There are talks at interministerial level and even at the level of the principals. The President Museveni and President Uhuru discuss all these issues. And before the end of this year, we are having a joint ministerial commission meeting in Kampala to discuss many issues, including Lake Victoria, including the tariffs, including peace, and many. Several ministers from the Republic of Kenya will come to Kampala and join their counterparts and discuss on how to manage these issues. The previous meeting was in 2019 and it was in Nairobi. So the second meeting is supposed to be in Kampala. It is the COVID that interfered. It should have taken place already. But we have agreed that before the end of the year, there's going to be a joint ministerial meeting to handle most of these issues. What is important, and everybody listening to us should know, is that Uganda and Kenya are brothers and sisters, and they cannot sustain a conflict. Any conflict will be resolved even when it requires making sacrifices. I'll give you an example. In April, there was an inter-trade meeting between the government of Kenya and the government of Uganda, and it took place in Kampala. But it culminated into the Minister for Trade of Kenya and the Minister for Uganda leading a delegation of Kenyan delegation and the Uganda delegation that are meeting the president. And the issue was to do with the non-tariff barriers. For instance, I'll tell you that Uganda had the non-tariff barriers on furniture from Kenya, okay? On sanitary materials from Kenya, and many others. And the meeting was the shortest that I've ever known, bilateral meeting. When the president was asked to talk, he said, I have abolished all those non-tariff barriers. And we clapped and we went out. You get me? Yeah. So there is nothing that can make us fail. And Kenya is reciprocating in the same way. Our sugar now comes. We are allowed to bring 90,000 tons of sugar to Kenya today. And if you go to the supermarkets, I was happy last time. I went to the supermarkets here in Nairobi, and I found Kakira sugar on the stalls. I said, yes, this is the meaning of peace between us.
You've talked about the consistency of how Uganda has been in the region, Ambassador. Would you attribute that kind of consistency to the long-serving leadership of President Museveni?
Of course, President Museveni has created peace in Uganda. Everybody enjoys it. And so what else can he do other than exporting it? So he has to export part of it.
Since you have done your use,
we have enough. We have enough of it. We have enough of it. When you produce in abundance, beyond what you can consume, you export.
You share with your neighbor.
Yes. Today we are producing more maize than we can eat in Uganda. So we have to bring some here. We are producing more sugar than we can consume in Uganda. So we have to bring some here. We are producing more milk than we can consume in Uganda. So we have to bring some here. And we have produced more peace than we deserved. So some peace have got to be exported. So we say extend the peace to Somalia, to Southern Sudan, and to any African country that needs peace. We are ready to export the peace.
People always talk about, now you've talked about the surplus in production that you have in your country. Maize, sugar, milk, that means your dairy sector is also thriving. And then when we talk about our production in the country, among the challenges that we find is the cost of production here is very high. What has Uganda done to be able to manage that cost of production, make it low, make it easy for farmers in Uganda to produce?
Okay, what is first of all, what I have learned in the short while when I'm here is that Kenyan people are very hardworking people. If there is anything I've learned from Kenya, is to be a hard worker. And I think I should be a better person. Because when I see the way people here work, they are not jokers. They work. But they also work because conditions are not very easy. For instance, here you may not produce the amount of maize you need per acre unless you use fertilizers. In Uganda, you don't need fertilizers to produce the maize you need.
Why is that?
The soils are so good compared to our soils here. When I travel by train, deliberately to see what Kenya is, I see land that requires a lot of motivation
to produce.
Which is not in. If you cross, actually, if you go, I deliberately, sometimes instead of flying to Entebbe, I fly to Kisumu. And then I drive from Kisumu across the border. And you'll see the soils from Kisumu towards the other side are different from the soils on this side. The other people also don't require motivating the soil to produce. So, naturally, our cost of production is low because our soils are fertile. Then the other thing is, I've lived in Nairobi. Even during a very cold period, like it was in July, there's no rain. There's no rain. I planted some mattock and so on my compound in Lavington. And it is a struggle for them to struggle.
To sprout.
Despite the motivation, they don't seem to be.
You see this? But the same mattock I planted in Imbari, at the same time, the other ones, in 2 months, 3 months, I will be harvesting. Now, even the weather seems, I don't blame anybody. The weather also is not
favorable.
Very favorable. Because in Uganda, if it rains now and it stops in 30 minutes, there's going to be sunshine. And this is what the plant wants. Okay? Here you can stay the whole day without seeing sunshine. What do you expect the crops to do? We're now just beginning to enjoy life in Nairobi. In July, I almost ran away. I went to Mombasa so many times to run away from the weather here. You needed 3-4 blankets to survive. Then I said, this is terrible. The way we feel as human beings, it is the same way the crops feel. So, as a result, the cost of production of agricultural products in Uganda is lower than here. Naturally, also. Nature contributes.
Balozi, we thank you very much for joining us. And we can clearly see you're enjoying your tour of duty in this country. Keep coming, and as long as you're here.
You're welcome.
Let's talk a lot more about our relations between Kenya and Uganda, and so sharing those experiences.
Yes.
His Excellency Dr. Hassan Waswa-Galiwango is Uganda's High Commissioner to Kenya and the Seychelles. And as you commemorate your 59 years of independence tomorrow, we wish you and the people of Uganda all the best.
Thank you.
It's good to have you on the show this entire week, and we also want to say thank you to these guys at Sassini who've been kind to us the entire week. Some nice, lovely coffee.
Thank you.
Instant coffee from Sassini. Instant coffee is a fine blend of African coffee made to offer a rich, smooth taste and aroma. You enjoyed it?
I did. My cup is empty. I wish it fill up
okay. I'll not give you this
Fill it
one.
up again.
Come on Monday, I'll give you some. Monday will be a public holiday here. I'll give you some more coffee. And I will be hanging out together on Sunday at Jiweke Tavern in Nairobi because it's a sports hangout. So we'll have Edward Kwach who will be hosting that entire banter, F1, football and all, sports hangout. And then we'll have DJs Absolute and DJ Brayo will be playing at Jiweke Tavern. We're there, right? Ambassador, come to Jiweke.
You're welcome.
Come to Jiweke on Sunday.
Tutakuja.
Yeah, fantastic.
Asante.
City, let's conclude with the day's proverb.
A person who fetched water is most troubled when it is wasted.
The person who exports peace
Is more peaceful.
to another country, when he sees that peace being wasted,
Yeah.
is most troubled. Troubled.
You're absolutely right. You have spiced up the independence of Uganda.
Bas.
Thank you, Spice FM.
Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation this week. See you again on Monday, on that day, which will be like it will be still another Friday for City and I. We'll come back on Sunday night. We'll be here
Enjoy
on Monday.
the jacket exploits.
You can come with us, dude.
Really?
Don't feel left out. Have a lovely weekend, folks.
Thank you.
See you on Monday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. It's now 10 a.m.
Thank you.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Assetto. Even as the government continues to put strategies aimed at fighting COVID-19 pandemic, the number of infections continue to go up. We recorded 218 new COVID-19 infections from a sample size of 5,350. In a statement,